Gamer, and welcome back to Mechabellum for Vanguard Tournament Asia. This is Weekend Tournament Asia number 72, and we're going to have a great field. There is one slot left in the Launch Clash tournament that should be filled today. And joining me in the broadcast booth is clintleetwood. Hello, Clint. Oh, I did not manage to pick your sound up. One moment. Yeah, indeed. Check, check. Check, check. Nope. Still not picking that up. Alright, run it again. Now, I'm getting you in my audio, but I'm not picking it up from the, That's fine. Let me make sure. We're just going to add the source all over again. Yeah. I think it's just capturing it from the wrong tab of... Here we go. Let's try that one. Alright, I think I've got you now. Perfect.
I gotta ask, any soft predictions with that slot being filled? Who do you think's gonna take it? We've got some crazy names already signed up for the tournament today.
Well, some of the top ones, Rooster and Zimp, have already filled it, so they're in the spoiler role. But
Ooh.
I like napping. Woot, Dillo, all in with a shout at getting that spot right now. Those would be the, presumably the three favorites. You know, I think Zillalag has been playing at a really high level as well, and has a shot at this. And then Rice is the other one that I think has a shot at it today.
Yeah, I think that's man, Rice. He's like, I feel like he drops off every now and again and then comes back, and always has a very strong performance in return.
Yeah.
But like we also have Skay.
Right.
We have who else did I see? Yeah, Steel Sane, Arganeer.
Yeah, Steel Sane's already booked his place. He's won 2.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so like Rooster, Zimp, Steel Sane, Flower Fairy, Blue Hair have all booked their places with the win 2. And who else? Apucci and Dachshund, of course. So that's the 7. And then there's one slot open today.
I think a player to keep an eye on is Coin. His name right now is Coin QT.
Right.
Are you familiar with Coin at all?
I know Coin, yeah. He's strong.
He's so good.
Yep.
And he's so fun to watch.
Yeah, people who don't just fall into that straight up, I'm going to play the same build every time. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I ran into him, I think, can't remember what tournament it was, but he was like jump drive wasping me left, right, and center, and just
all over the
owning
place.
me.
Nice.
Yeah, and then once I stabilized, he made like 7 worms, and I still died. And I was like, great.
I've stabilized. No, I haven't. Well, I'm really excited to have you here with me, Clint. This is really exciting.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for wanting to do some GoCast and co-commentary.
I had been wanting to do that since you extended the invitation about a month ago. I'm glad we were able to make it work today.
Also, I just love talking about video games, you know?
Fair enough. It's like, for me, I don't go broad with video games. I will pick one and put thousands of hours into it. And for me, this has been the one for the last year and change, and it's exciting to see it come to launch already. You know, and really looking forward to celebrating the legendary players that we've had during early access as it goes public. So
very cool. It'd be cool to see any new rising stars too with launch coming. Right. If the old guard remains tried and true, we've had a huge influx of players. You know, it's with people like Grubby doing the stream. So I'm curious to see if we'll have, you know, any new big streamers take it on, and you know, with that, any large influx of players shake up the roster, so to speak, the usual suspects.
Right. Yeah, it's neat to see Yeswin Big break almost all the way into the top 100 world, going from, you know, having met him at about 1200 MMR. So.
Yeah, he's a big grinder. He's been playing real hard. He's been taking the game very seriously, and he's been taking on a lot of coaching lessons.
Right.
It's very cool to see him climb so rapidly as well.
Yeah, it's been pretty neat. Somebody broke 2,500.
That's just crazy.
That was just amazing.
I've heard people say that they think MMR is a little inflated. Well, when I see numbers like 2,500, maybe that's a little true, but otherwise I feel like MMR is like a pretty accurate.
It's pretty accurate.
Parameter. Yeah.
There was a period where it was underinflated, so it has needed to inflate back to where it was. And it's not up, I don't think, at the complete wild levels that it was. I mean, if you look at this, there's, you know, 5 players at 2,400. You get down, there's 7 players at 2,300. Jump all the way down to here, and there's another, what would you say, 19 at 2,200? I don't think that's really inflated, especially when you start looking at, hey, wait, some of those are Dillo twice, or, you know, people on 2 different accounts. So it's not...
Or rat 3 times, or...
Yeah, rat a couple of times.
Yeah.
Well, it's about that time. Ladies and gentlemen, start your sledgehammers. Let's go. You have a particular match you want to cast, my friend?
I was going to ask you just the same. We've got some great contenders here. We got Napping versus Mizum, Bergenond. I played a lot against recently. Yota versus Jerome.
Mm-hmm.
Strong players.
Let's take the Napping versus Miasim, I think, unless there's anything else down here. On the grounds that Napping is one of the people that can qualify, and Miasim is one of the people that can knock him out.
Cool. Loading it up now.
All right.
any predictions for Napping versus Miasm?
Oh, that's a good point. I should put up channel point predictions for folks. Personally, I think I'm going to take Miasm.
Okay. I'll take Napping. I think Napping's a fine candidate to take a game off of Miasm. It really comes down to how these two players probably route through Standard. As far as I understand, both of their play styles are typically standard/defensive styles of play.
Right.
No one is really here. None of these two players that we're talking about are really aggro-based.
Yeah, neither of them are particularly aggro-based. So, but Miasm in particular is typically plays pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Welcome to Weekend Tournament Asia number 72, the Vanguard Tournament. With me in the booth is Clint Leetwood. Thanks for joining me, Clint. We've got I Like Napping, who can qualify for that Launch Clash tournament. It's going to be Nearside Blue with Miasm Farside Red. How are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing pretty all right. Always excited to talk about Mechabellum, and curious to know what you think of these opening drafts. We have I Like Napping with Speed Spec and Crawler Stormcaller developing into Arclights, and Miasm with Farseer Spec and Crawler Sledge. Who are you going to give the edge to here in these early rounds?
I am loving Farseer, so I think the question here is, can I Like Napping take advantage of the Stormcaller start to put some tempo pressure on Miasm? Miasm only has 3,600 hit points, so this is an opportunity to get some early wins, have the Stormcallers survive for 400 points plus whatever else is alive, and get Miasm down under 3,000 pretty quickly. And hopefully be able to survive and turn this before a whole bunch of Farseers come online.
Yeah, and it also happens to be the case, right? If Miasm does drop below like 3,000 and into the, or maybe even into the 2,000s range, if Napping's able to secure enough early rounds, right? That realistically is just one bad late game round.
Right.
So you have this like constant mental pressure of can't mess up.
Yeah, don't F it up.
Yeah. Okay, first unit selection or reinforcement card selection coming in. Instant skip from Miasm.
Did not love any of those. Needed.
Yeah.
I gotta figure he's thinking I need to unlock and buy storms. And you can see he already has unlocked storms in the background here. So that's what he skipped for.
Pretty classic Miasm move, honestly.
I'd like to see, I was gonna say I'd like to see Napping take those wasps because there's no anti-wasp presence, and if Miasm does go for the Stormcallers, he hasn't unlocked something that can shoot down the wasps. So I Like Napping has a guaranteed round win by taking that card, and that contributes to continuing to pile on the pressure.
Very true. Even if it doesn't, get this early tower cheese, the reality, right, is that any amount of damage that Napping can guarantee early is going to contribute to that idea that we proposed earlier, right, which is like you can't mess it up later on. But not only do we get the Stormcallers removed on the left, but we also get that early tower, which means this isn't just going to be a small victory from that Wasp group. It's going to be a pretty overwhelming round victory with everything else on the field.
Yeah, a solid thumping for sure.
Yeah. And this is where I feel like, as Farseer spec, I start to sweat. How about you?
Yeah, this would be worrisome. You don't want to give a player of Napping's quality this kind of tempo advantage. But now Miasm has the Farseer arriving. He's got 600. He can buy 2 more of them. Or not, because he has the unit reinforcement round. And he gets the Marksman. This is Miasm's favorite piece. favorite unit, I would say. He'll just run a back line of marksmen and get to carry Mark at some point. So he's taken the second Farseer and one more Crawler. I'd imagine the Crawler goes in the back left, yep. And the two Farseers are now in a flank screening position, so there won't be any more cheesy Wasp or Phoenix flanks.
Yeah, this is just like a very, I would say, like, standard and like strict development, right? It's you know, storms to answer the ground. Every standard player usually needs like 2 to 4 per game. You know, you develop marksmen to both cover the flank but also apply pressure in the middle, and then the Farseers are there as a good support unit and solid DPS. Right. So I think if I were to take a guess at the board right now, right, I think Mechabellum has like a real shot at winning this, but Napping did a little tricksy move here and taking the range early on for the marksman. So that might be maybe a little bit of a game changer here if we can chew through some of these units fast enough.
But it certainly is a good answer to the Farseer proper to have better range, and then it also answers the marksman and puts them on par with the Stormcrawlers. But come down to Mechabellum winning on the left side tower. Gets the left side tower debuff, and that lets these two storms on the right finish out the surviving marksman. So Napping is down to 4,000 hit points, Mechabellum's at 2,600, and we get to round 5. Or round 4 even, sorry.
Yeah, and Incendiary Bomb coming out for both players, a very strong, I would say, like, typical take in this scenario, right? Both players have to make a lot of distance and cover a lot of ground. Can't really shield everything. Did you see anything else worth taking in that last pack?
No.
If you were in one of these players' positions?
No, I think this is a good choice for both of them, and not surprised to see Napping shield first. One of the tips that I figured out at some point pretty early was, you know, if you're going to play the see a spell, play around the spell game, which you pretty much have to, it helps me to play around the spell as the first thing that I do, not the last thing that I do.
No, I think that's a great piece of advice. I used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering, and the way I've always heard that talked about is you always do the things you must do first, and then you worry about the rest of your turn.
Makes good sense to me.
Both players shielding. Pretty smart stuff. But I think Mechabellum still just has a little too much beef on the ground.
Yeah, he's added one more storm, right? Which is making a big difference on the right side. That's why he was able to punch through towers and ultimately, or shields even, ultimately get tower and then just about clean out the round, but Napping wins the round with 1 unit left. We're still at about 4,000 to 2,600.
Very true. It's so cool to see how these higher level players and at these higher MMRs can like really mitigate mid game losses like that.
Right.
To the point where they're just like almost ties or
yeah, they come
just
out
50
so
damage.
Close.
Yeah.
I am surprised Mechabellum skipped the improved firepower and amp core with the Farseers back there, because those can get out of control if you were to start giving them amp core or improved firepower control and get some techs on them. They can really scale pretty quickly, and these are the only ways to increase the damage output of the Farseer, which is why I've been liking them.
No, I completely agree. I think I think like the breakpoint that I'm always looking for with Farseers, right, is like level 3, and you know, getting an item, one, helps the unit like superficially get there faster, but also just get there faster.
Right.
I feel like an important thing to note here, right, is that Napping maintained a shield and Mechabellum did not. So what we might end up seeing is the left side kind of eking out the next round like it kind of did previously. But Mizum goes ahead and tries to fix his shield break issues by slamming down 2 more storms and developing into fire callers.
It's 1 more storm. He had 3 last round.
Oh,
so
my apologies.
The new one. And the new one is on the shield break side, needed, as you said. So, and he's also gone into a fairly heavy amount of arc lights at this point. Which is surprising. I would have expected to see him go more marksman, just from knowing Miyasim's style. Of course, for those that don't know him, Miyasim is one of the game devs, and along with Bearlight, probably the 2 that are on ladder and in tournaments the most frequently, the most well-known, perhaps. Bearlight does say that he's one of the lowest MMRs in the office, because of course the whole dev team has to play a 10 in order to be... I mean, you have to play just to test things. You might as well play against somebody, right?
Very true. Very true. Huge pivot coming out from Napping, though. We got double AM War Factory. This early in the morning?
He took 1,700 hit points of damage last round and said, "Not again, my friend." He sells out of one of the marksmen to fund this. So he's sold out of a teched and leveled marksman to go into the war factories.
It kind of makes sense to me what Napping here is doing, right? We have a good chunk of our chaff just getting deleted by, this fire caller shenanigans, right? So if we can just delay that or even stop it, but also, right, Mizum's main DPS has been Farseer. So if we can also turn that off, like, we are in a good spot. Some late aggro coming out, though, with this mobile beacon, the double war factory right at your tower. How do you feel about the most recent changes to War Factory? You had a couple buffs come out for this unit.
I think War Factory might be a little overtuned at the moment. And, I think it was actually in a pretty good slot. I'm not sure why it was wiring the buff, actually. I like the...
I completely agree.
I kind of like the fact that, where is it? Efficient maintenance is as efficient as it is. There it is. But I don't think it should be costing a simple 50 at this point. I think it should be a much harder decision in terms of whether or not to take it.
Yeah.
Miyasim takes a melting point, so gets an answer to it, having survived the round with a whopping 300 hit points. Eek.
Yeah, Napping takes 1,700 and says, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, almost gets the knockout, right? Like, that's how
right on the spot.
This was. Now the question is, can Miyasim stop it?
And this is what we were sort of talking about earlier, right? Which is like this idea that if Napping can get Mizum in like the 2,000 range, like, this is all that needs to happen. One bad round, and then suddenly Mizum's back is completely against the wall, and he can no longer make any mistake.
Right. So Napping has added 3 steel balls. Miyasim has added 3 melting points with range. I'm curious to see, he does not actually run steel ball production. He's running sledgehammer production, which is an odd attack in that a lot of people are running steel ball because you can use steel ball to go to MacDiv as your chaff generation, right? People will ask, why doesn't a war factory generate chaff? And the answer is it does. It just takes steel ball into MacDiv. So he's
right. You have to jump through a couple hoops here.
Yeah, but since he's running,
there it is too.
Since he's running sledgehammer production, he doesn't actually get the benefit of generating the steel balls.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't Sledgehammer Prod the largest like rod unit count that
yes,
it
it's
makes?
the largest raw unit count it makes.
Yeah.
So, if you're just looking at the units without thinking about the other techs that you're going to have on the units, it certainly looks like it might be the better chaff production. But because the steel balls are fast, you guarantee that they're going to run out in front and tank the, in this case, the melting point. And if they can turn into crawlers, then you've got a chaff problem that you're creating for somebody. And turns out, napping does not need that. The 2 War Factories, enough to KO Miasim here in round 1 of this tournament. So I like napping, who is 1 tournament win away from qualifying for the last launch clash tournament. Makes it through to round 2. What do you think about the board? Any comments?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing right there is that 10% HP nerf that happened, I think it was in 0.8 no, it was slightly after 0.8.3 for the melting point, and the most recent attack damage buff, and for the War Factory, right? Misim's board makes sense in the idea that, melting points counter the War Factory, and, everything else should kind of take care of itself. But, it's the only thing the War Factory needs to do is just get on one of your towers or get on one of your melting points, and the dynamic seems to change pretty drastically.
Right.
How about you?
Only thing I would say is it felt premature to me that Miasim took Missile Interceptor, because there were only the 2 storms out on the board. And if he doesn't take Missile Interceptor, maybe he could afford to throw down EMP. And if he can land EMP on the steel balls, this last round might have gone a little bit differently. It's my thinking.
Yeah.
And so, but he really couldn't afford to do that after taking the Missile Interceptor, and to drop that 3 melting points. He couldn't also take Electromagnetic Barrage to get 2 techs, and buy 2 giants was going to be too expensive for him. So he was kind of handcuffed himself, I think, by taking this Missile Interceptor on round 6 into what turned out to be the War Factories.
So, yeah, no, I agree. No easy application of EMP either in the Marksman or the Arc Lights as well. So
right,
we're really contingent on, interceptable missile attacks to do it.
Right. Well, how about you jump into a match, and I'll go around the room. And when I'm jumping into the match, you'll have some idea of where we're at. So if you want to jump into maybe HD Susauer's match. I've got Green Mountains beats Arrow. We had B-Man beats Andros. I Like Napping, you just saw beat Miasim. Player I think of as 7 is actually Prince Poggy beat Ferganant. Jota gets a win. We've got a player named What who beats Yes Win Big. Argoneer wins. This is, I think, Single True beats Unrivaled Super Hottie. So Super Hottie is not going to be advancing this tournament. Zillalag beat Rice, so that is another one of the possible players that could advance getting knocked out in round 1. Li Jinghong beats Armeria. Flix, Coin and Rat are really close. Flix beats Bearlike, very nicely done. Lord Clankariat beats Skay. So we're getting a whole bunch of really good matches in round 1 of these tournaments. Now that these tournaments mean something, we've got a ton of turnout. Play Archer beats the 7-11. Hawkins Space beats Godog. And Godog is one of the invited players, so we'll be in the Launch Clash tournament regardless of performance here. Dillo beats Void. We've got Zemp over River Skende. Zemp, the America's champion, already qualified with that win. Rooster gets a win. Rooster and I had been co-casting Asia. Rooster said he was feeling reinvigorated to play right now, and I think you can see that in the final score there. And at the top of the group, this is Death is the Order. I believe that's StarCraft Panda, folks. All right, what match are you in, sir?
I am watching Nuclear versus a 201 player that I have no idea who they are. But Nuclear, I figured if we were on the Misim watching, or dev watching train, let's go check out Nuclear.
Okay. That match has finished, so You're going to have to commentate, I guess, for me, radio style.
It's a lot of standard positioning and okay, I see how it ends now. Nuclear dies by 12 with one giant remaining on the field, which is a little unfortunate, but a pretty standard setup from both players. A lot of Stormcallers, a bunch of chaff, some Typhoon missiles kind of taking the day for a little bit there. But yeah, I wanted to commentate on you were talking about earlier with how stacked these tournaments are. Usually, I feel like on these weekend tournaments, you have to wait till like round 3-ish to start seeing these like heavy hitters start swinging at each other. Mm-hmm. But man, it really feels like this round 1 is pretty stacked for this tournament so far.
Yeah, having something at stake where we know there's going to be qualification for a cash prize tournament really changed the stakes and drew out a whole bunch of really good players, and I'm excited to see it. It's invigorated these tournaments. Mr. Dad says, "Hey, I'm in rookie group 1, and I just lost to a 1900 MMR player." So that's crazy. How stacked this tournament is. There's players that good who didn't even make it in. And that's not his Smurf. That's his main account, right? Mm-hmm. So at the bottom half of the table, if you don't know, the tournament is split into, in our case, we're going to have Advanced Group 1 and Rookie Group 1 with 100 participants each. In the first round, the top 50 face each other high versus low, and the bottom 50 face each other adjacent, so 51 versus 52, 53 versus 54. So around the bottom half, we have Crazy Fish, Icy D getting wins, along with this player is a Meow Meow C doesn't move. So Meow Meow gets the win. Hots beat Yakamaru. We've got a couple, Aushan beats Sinwa. Gunja Star gets a win over Lex. Invictum, Krog, and Mamoru loses out to... Sorry, we're doing Google Lens Translate here. Loses to Winning with Mixed Points. Teddy gets a round 1 win. Congrats.
Hey, shoutouts.
Yeah. He's been grinding a lot as well.
Yeah, he's been streaming too. It's cool to see.
Yep. Royal Ice Cool beats Ferret Master. Soup Pirate gets a win. That's a long time player. iGod beats Anita. Whooped GG beats Symbios. My Time of Dying gets a win. Simple Little Bear wins. Cute Egg Fried Rice wins. A Russian player, who's that? How does that one translate? Total Noob. I don't believe you are a total noob, sir. Total Noob wins. Blunted Baboon wins. Thunder beats I Hate POS Carries. Cypher Shot gets a win. Below Zero gets a win. Lavamancer, Eoz, and Strong Wizard will close out the winners here. So we are through to round 2. Shiroha beat Esper Lion. Around to see Steel saying it does close out and get the win there.
Just barely, mind you. I just caught the last round and it was
tight.
Icy.
All right. So that's going to leave us 50 unbeaten. Shocking. 100 players turns into 50. 50 will turn into 25, and then we'll have a spoiler in that third round. But round 2, of course, is always the round of, let's say, many mismatches. But we should have some good matches in the 20s versus 20s, I think. Looks like we'd have Hawkins Space versus Crazy Fish, Lord Clinkariat versus ICD, Coin versus... what is this one? Coin versus Meow Meow C. Any of those appeal to you?
I love watching a coin game. He plays so much differently than me, and I think he is just a lot of fun to watch personally.
All right, let's go check him out then. Coin QT.
Also, I'm not familiar with Meow Meow C. Are you?
I am not familiar with Meow Meow C, no, so it'll be a chance to learn about the player. Congrats to 100% of you who picked I Like Napping to win in the first round. We'll give you the round 2 predictions.
Any soft predictions for this game? Meow Meow C versus Coin?
I mean, since I don't know Meow Meow C, I'm going to have to pick a coin, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got to represent our friends, you know?
Exactly. How are you feeling about War Factory balance at the moment?
Look, I am not the biggest fan of War Factory or Battle Factory metas, and I think we're kind of back at it. Yeah. And I don't know. To a greater extent, I feel like we left this like very oppressive Vulcan Scorch meta into Battle Factory meta, and I'm just like not having a great time about it.
Fair enough. Welcome to round 2 of Vanguard Tournament Asia. We've got Coin near side blue and Meow Meow C far side in red. And as we can see from the chat, they are going headbutt at the moment. Coin took Elite Specialist with Arclight and Steel Balls. Meow Meow C, you can see they're gentlemen to each other. One of the things I really enjoy about the community in general is the amount of respect in this community in the way that players play each other. Of course, if you're going to play a competitive 2-player or a competitive 1v1 game, you want good people to play against so that you enjoy the match whether you win or lose, rather than needing to have a win to get an enjoyment out of it. And, you know, being polite to your opponent is one way to achieve that. However, I am going to turn the chat off so we don't get a spoiler as to when the match might be over. We did get the spoiler that they were going to headbutt each other, and here they are.
Yeah, both players electing to do some ASIM aggro. These headbutt situations are, I think, so stressful to navigate. Is there any rules of thumb that you make the decision on how to navigate these scenarios, or are you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants as well?
Oh, I'm making it up as I go along every match. I don't tend to. I don't enjoy playing a standardized build or a standardized approach. So I'm really looking for wherever I can find any individual advantage in any given match. I want to make it up as I go. For a long time, I didn't even have standard positionings that I would get to. I was going to make up my round 1 formation every match. I've kind of gotten to a bit of, like, okay, at the level that I'm at now, I sort of have to have some optimized positions. But Coin wins round 1. That drops Meow Meow C to 4,100 hit points. Coin's up at 5,400. Meow Meow C has the Speed Specialist and didn't get any benefit from that in the headbutt situation. Elite Hacker would be an interesting choice in a Steel Ball headbutt, because Hacker and Steel Ball go together really nicely. And when you're this close to each other, you could actually give up the range, right? The Assault Stormcaller wouldn't have hurt anywhere near as much. Players don't think about these things necessarily, but a headbutt like this is pretty much the perfect time for Assault Storms.
No, I completely agree. We don't really need the range, and we want the extra tanking. It's pretty significant.
Right.
The other thing that I think that I would expect to see out of both players here pretty early on is a Wraith. I think Wraith is like the key to these headbutt matchups, and both players can benefit, greatly from it, from using steel balls. Natural pairing right there between those two units.
Right. And the reason that's natural pairing is the ranges. The steel ball is one of the few units with lower range than the Wraith. So you get the steel ball out in front, and it's tanks for the Wraiths. The Wraith doesn't get shot down as much. And of course, the Wraith providing a degen beam from above protects the steel ball in return. So
Absolutely.
One of the few units that actually pairs really nicely with Wraith in that way, without the Wraith having to take range. And of course, range plus degen, it starts to get expensive. So that's why I said that there. Both players.
Yes, absolutely.
Both players have a level in the steel balls. The Coin at 4,900, Meow Meow C at 4,100. There's the improved Wraith. Man, did Clint call it? Coin seeing the same thing. Of course, Meow Meow C went for the much cheaper option. I'm going to drop a Rhino Assault on the back line. Coin has that.
Another thing that we...
Go ahead.
Apologies. Another thing that we maybe didn't talk about just yet is Meow Meow C slamming out Charge Shot for his Arc Lights round 2. Kind of a smart idea in my mind, right? Mainly because of how Arc Lights kind of struggle clearing crawlers of a higher level, but Charge Shot kind of uniquely fixes that, but also very handedly deals with level 1 steel balls or level 2 steel balls if the Arc Light is at the same level.
Right. So Coin's turn here, he's playing as Elite Specialist, so it's an improved Wraith at level 2 with 30,000 hit points. There is no anti-air, so this Rhino calling is not going to matter at all. The question is just how much damage can we get before the Rhino hits the tower? Can we stay alive with something, a couple of other units on the ground? There was a flank with a couple of crawlers. That's not going to amount to much underneath the Wraith either. This is going to go down to just the Wraith.
Yeah, and it's a little spooky here from Meow Meow's side, right? Because there is a couple leveled Arc Lights that will be feeding a bunch of experience into this Wraith. And if a level 2 improved Wraith was already scary enough and kind of hard to deal with, a nearly level 3 improved Wraith certainly will shake you up.
Yeah, at 30,000 hit points, this thing is beefier than an Overlord already. At 45,000, you're starting to look at like, wait, that's a flying fortress.
True.
The MEOC does get 4 level 2 marksmen. You got to figure that is the answer here. And Coin adds a pair of level 2 Phoenix. Has a Phoenix running straight towards the far side tower, I would say. So it has an unprotected tower run.
Oh. Yeah. I think a smart thing here from both players, right, is both players respecting this early marksman drop, this round 4 drop with, either double level 2 Phoenixes or 4 level 1 marksmen. Such a strong amount of deploys, right? Essentially, Coin, if he had the option to, or if he wanted to, could go for 5 deploys this round, and Meow Meow C could go for 7 deploys this round. And, deploys are king in this game, right? They can amount to tempo and some capacity. They speed up the game, and
here is a critical buy for this round. Meow Meow C throws down 1 marksman on the far side. And that is going to be, because he's given them all anti-air to handle the Wraith. That's fixed the problem I was talking about where the Wraith has shorter range, or has longer range than the steel balls. The marksman will shoot over the steel balls and take out the Wraith first. But it also means that this level 1 over here is going to handle the pair of level 2 Phoenix, level himself up, and just shut down Coin's attack on the weak side tower. So a really critical buy from Meow Meow C there. Something that might have looked like a throwaway to a lot of players. So Meow Meow C wins round 4, Coin down to 4,500. Meow Meow C's at 3,768. stakes-wise, both of these
Both
players
going for shield airdrop.
Yeah, I like that into the headbutt, but it's tough with the steel balls, right? As the figure the steel balls are going to just get a lock on it and knock things down. Coin's got a pack of steel balls up to level 3.
Interestingly enough, we see Coin going for more Wraiths. How do you feel about that into 4 level 2, well, now 1 level 3 AA spec marksman?
He's going to need range first to get the steel balls out in front, and that's what he's done, right? So the problem that I've got is not the buy, but the deployment. He needs to have something 40 meters in front of it in order for this marksman to target the thing in front on the ground rather than the Wraith. And I think right now they're going to be targeting, because it's showing me that it's targeting this pack of crawlers, it's actually going to be targeting the Wraith right off the rip. This marksman, for example. This one won't, this one won't, this one won't, but this marksman on the left is going to have a immediate lock. The same as this marksman on the far right has an immediate lock on this guy. Although he does not because of the flank. And I was wrong about this guy. The Coin's positioning is perfect. He's got it.
I think it changes slightly if he clicks range. Meow meow see that is. Round start unit targeting is a little weird, I have noticed, and you can kind of exploit it, so we'll have to see if that ends up happening next round.
Okay. What have you noticed? Like, can you describe that a little bit more specifically for viewers?
Yeah, so specifically, when there is a ongoing clash in the middle of a match, the retargeting priority of like AA spec on either wasps or marksman doesn't behave in the same way that at unit start. So it feels like if there is, or sorry, at round start. And by that I mean when there is like an ongoing clash, like the units will prioritize that stuff in front of them usually. But at round start, I've noticed that if you always have like a similar setup to that clash, the unit targeting always prioritizes the air unit. For example, if you have a marksman like 4 paces to the right or left of your tower on the flank, you just can't play a boat there ever because they can click AA spec and it'll always target the boat. So you have to then like place wasps in front. You can play around with it in testing rounds. I'm not doing a great job at explaining it, but it is definitely something I've noticed in play 2 sometimes, and have played 2 against Coin.
And so you're saying because this moved into the radius after round start, that's why it got picked up. And if he can change it by adding range so that the Wraith is within the range plus AA at round start, then the Wraith might have been the priority target.
Yeah, the Wraith would then be the priority target. That is my understanding of how that interaction works.
Cool.
But yeah, that's what I've seen.
That's a good explanation. Instead of going for degen, Coin has gone for 8-gun, so he is really leaning into the Wraiths as not just my chaff player, these are going to be my DPS. We're going to be up here, we're going to tear through your front lines. He does actually get that far side tower. The oil over here isn't even slowing down the push, because the units on the ground are basically just tanking for the units in the air. So we got the job done, and it's a comprehensive round win for Coin. Beautifully done. Drops Meow Meow C down to 1840. The cat in trouble.
Using up those 9 lives pretty quick, huh?
Right.
Oh, I gotta say though, I see Coin play a lot of 8-gun or what is it called, floating artillery array on his Wraiths, and I think he loves his tech. I think he pilots it incredibly well. And I think it's so strong into these headbutt scenarios.
As somebody who loved donuts when they were the slightly overtuned, slightly meta, I loved playing them and really enjoyed it. So it's fun to see Coin piloting them well. Here's a mobile beacon steel ball right on an unprotected route. This can be devastating at an end of a game scenario, right? We talked about getting under 2,000 hit points being into that danger zone, where a single bad round can do it. And there is no chaff, there's no protection for this angle, right? So that's a really nice job of just finding that hole and exploiting it from Coin.
Yeah, and this is what Coin's so good at doing. He finds these like little pockets that he can slip right in, and you know, if he didn't catch it last round, what ended up happening is this 8-gun Wraith on the left side absolutely tore through the chaff on the left side. And here we go. Steel balls get in, that left tower goes down, and it's another early tower cheese. These early tower cheeses means that these this right side should just crush.
Yeah, adding melting points might have felt like the answer to the Wraith and the Overlord, but these melters have never gotten to target anything useful at all.
Nope.
Now they're finally targeted on a steel ball. Congratulations, that's the biggest thing it got to target all day. And oh, so close. 20 hit points left. Cat down to its last life.
This is Coin's curse. This is where the player makes a comeback.
Well, he's got
loose formation crawlers, though.
Yeah, he's got the shield protecting him against the fire. He's gone to loose formation crawlers.
But I mean, we got a level 4 Wraith with absorption module. That is one of the worst things to see in this game. I feel like that is certainly up there.
Right.
Something cool being done by Meow Meow C. If you look over to the middle loose formation crawlers, there is a rhino drop being called in on them. This is what we like to colloquially call a Goomba Stomp. This will act as a missile. It will kill the crawlers, and the body will survive, so it might even slow down these steel balls just slightly. I think Coin's got this in the bag. What do you think, Amarok?
I think so too. I don't see a comeback there. But you never know. I'd say if Meow Meow C can stabilize, and I think Meow Meow C's problem right now is not all the big units. But the chaff clear, really. It needs to get through the steel balls, needs to get through the chaff on the ground. And now Coin is crushing it. Pounding this defense. Back is broken. And it's over.
That level 4 Wraith just sneezed on the right-hand tower. The tower popped.
Yeah, gold damage dealer, gold kills. Very nice. And Coin shows up in chat to say, surely you guys had better matches to watch. Well, I mean, you guys were one of the closest in MMR matches, I would think, out of this group. But nicely done. You certainly made it look easy, sir. Well played. Let's see. Is there anything else in the unbeatens that we should jump into?
I'm gonna say feel free. And I'll catch up with you. I'm really wanting to validate what I was saying earlier about the marksman and range and AA spec at round start. So I'm gonna hop into that replay real quick and set out.
Very nice. Yeah, I did want to comment, so Beardrag, first time chatter, welcome to chat, thank you very much. Also, welcome Killor. I commented that we had an ad during match, and it, of course, started at the worst possible time, which is understandable. I apologize, I actually love Mechabellum for Twitch ad timing, because I can, if I'm on top of it and doing my job well, I can time the ads for between matches. Like, I could have run the ad in that brief bit where we're talking about the the round, who won the round, what happened there, and then come right back. If you're new to the game, one of the things that's going on right now, Clint has saved that replay and jumped out to the solo testing grounds, or into the replay modification. So you can take over, as you're watching a replay, you can jump into, not the testing grounds, but actually into that specific match, at that specific positioning, to see if a specific tech would have changed things for us. So he can actually go replay one of the rounds he was talking about and say, like, hey, back on round 3, I called out that player X could have done Y. Now I can go verify it. Because it used to be that, as talking heads, we didn't have to be accountable for it. For our decisions, for our complaints, you could always second-guess somebody. But now you can actually prove it one way or the other. What did you find, Sam?
You were saying...
So.
Right, apologies. So you were saying that the right-hand side, or the marksman towards the middle, should preferentially target the wraith, or the donut, as we like to call it. So I added range and temp range just to make sure that radial showing or visualizing the marksman range was touching the wraith at round start.
Right.
It was, and it did preferentially target the wraith at round start. So so just something to keep in mind if you're at home and playing around with this game. You can manipulate targeting at round start. After round start, though, things get a little weird. So
right. The way that I've understood that is it's not that the aerial specialization prioritized is targeting air. It's that the unit will shoot the first thing that enters range. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in the first thing that enters range, so that's why I was saying he needed that the wraith to be more than 30 meters away from the front line. And not the front line of the board, but the front line of his units. You need to be about 35 meters behind the line. So Coin's positioning was aggressive with that one wraith. I didn't like it into the AA marksman. Of course, 9 lives over there did not take advantage of the positioning, but there was a way to take advantage of the positioning. So, and Coin says, no, don't teach them how to beat me. Well, sir, the fix on your side would be very easy. It would just be to set the unit behind the steel balls, and then the positionings would have been fine for you. So.
I'm in the Ao-chan Ziliag game.
Oh my god! How many hit points do these two have left?
It's kind of crazy what I'm seeing right now.
Are we getting one of those games where we're in round 9 and they both have 3,000 hit points?
Yes, sir.
I was going to say, this has to be a Carry Arclight versus Carry Marksman game. It is Carry Arclight for Ao-chan. 4 tech. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in a line. Goodness.
I don't know much about Ao-chan. Are you familiar with this individual? I know she streams, but I like every time I see her, I feel like I see her on like the 1,200 to 1,400 like bracket. But every time she plays at a tournament, she's playing at such a much higher level. Like Ziliag is no pushover, you guys.
Right.
This game should not be this competitive.
Well, that can be a player who did the sort of things that I used to do, which was, I'm going to play for fun. I'm not necessarily going to go out and play to, it's not that I'm not playing to win, but I'm not going to just sit down and play a single build that I know is optimized every time out. I just don't care about MMR enough to go do that. That's not fun for me. I don't think it's fun to play against that build over and over. So, maybe this is somebody who is throwing down all sorts of crazy and fun builds, and that tanks MMR a little bit, but when they get to a tournament, they throw down the things that they know are good.
Yeah, and I
could be what
think
you're saying.
to that credit, right? I think after here's my opinion on how to like climb in this game, right? I think understanding fundamentals gets you to 1600-ish, and I think everything else after that is like playing to your style, refining your style, because at a certain point, right, you know breakpoints better than your opponent, you know board states better than your opponent. It reminds me of this like old piece of advice in chess that I used to get, which was like, if you're playing against a better player, something you should do is create an imbalance on the board, and an imbalance you're comfortable piloting. And that way you can kind of navigate a situation that might be uncomfortable for your opponent and comfortable for you. I think that's what we're kind of seeing from Aochan. Maybe not intentionally, but if 14 quad-teched arcs is something very atypical you see nowadays.
Right. This is something that, for me, this was the skill check for how to get past about 800 MMR. Was running. I would just I would get up to 770 or so, and then I would run into this full carry Arclight meta, and it would kill me, and it just broke me. I hate the Arclight as a result. I could not get past it. I finally had. It's part of what wound up part of the group that wound up founding that Mechabellum guild is the gang that we were getting together and playing some friendly in-house 2v2s, and finally one of the guys was like, look, man, you know, he loved his carry arcs, and he was like, look, they're beatable. I just need to teach you how. And so he sat down and did. And at that point, all of a sudden, I was past 800 MMR and counting again.
Yeah, it used to be the topic of carry arc used to be a really contentious one on the official Mecha Discord. A lot of people ran into issues with it. I've actually made a few friends off of talking about how to beat it. It's a real filter.
It really is.
And you know, it used to be something that you would see even in like the 1800s to 2000s range, but you know, there was a time when charge shot came with a pretty big nerf, and it now the charge shot nerf still exists, but Arclight's got some love in the most recent patch. You want to talk about that a little bit, Emerald?
Sure. The old Arclight, a couple of, let's call it the 08, the 0.8 version of Arclight, had a shot attack interval, I guess I should say, of 1.1 seconds, and a charged shot with the 35% increase would bump the charged shot attack interval to 1.5 seconds. So at 1.1 second and 1.5 seconds, yeah, it wasn't great in a carry roll. The nerf and or buff that it got was losing attack value, raw attack value, but also losing attack interval. So for a net DPS increase, that changed some breakpoints, so it's not killing units quite as effectively at certain breakpoints, but it dropped the attack interval to 0.9 seconds, which means the charged shot attack interval is what you're seeing here, 1.2 seconds. So with charged shot attack, almost the same value at 1.2 as the base attack used to be at 1.1, all of a sudden Arclight is really, really strong. And, you know, you could make an argument, possibly too strong. Certainly Zillalag might be feeling like they are too strong. And of course, the answers to how to beat carry Arclight is to see it happening and to not feed it experience. And Aochan took a look at this, said, you know, I've got cost control on additional deployments, but Zillalag is an elite specialist who was deploying elite chaff. And level 2 chaff hands out 3 times as much experience as level 1 chaff. And that just let these things feast and feast and feast and get all of the levels that they needed to make this work. So, you know, just joining this game, even though we joined it in round 9, you know, we can kind of see how Aochan got the XP into this line and how that got to scaling out of control for Zillalag. So.
Yeah, I think that used to be one of my go-to answers for elite spec play was carry arcs, and it's kind of cool to see it back. I think as an elite spec player, you are on a knife's edge against carry arc, and it can get pretty out of control pretty fast. But I wanted to say, I see Yota versus Aochan, and I kind of want to see if she can keep up that that streak of taking scalps. How do you feel about that?
That one is interesting. I'm looking around to see who I know could qualify by moving on.
Oh, for sure.
As folks to follow, that would be Dillo against HD Susauer, I think is one of them. And I Like Napping is facing Shiroha. So I think those are the two that I would be intrigued to go to.
Yeah, I'm down for either of those. Let's say you.
We've already
take a pick.
we've shown I Like Napping. Let's show Dillo and HD Susauer. And
Love it.
We will run our ad now so that we don't get an ad during that match. And of course, we'll put up channel point predictions for those of you that can still hear us. Not for the non-subscribers, though. They can't hear us.
Non-subscribers. Hey, it's September, baby.
It is September, isn't it?
Fire up those subs, you know what I'm saying?
Let's go. And yes, Ms. Diana, I do get up early enough to cast Asia now. It is a regular thing. And welcome to round 3 of Vanguard Tournament Asia, Weekend Tournament Asia number 72. We've got HD Susauer and Dillo. Dillo is one of those folks that can qualify for the Launch Clash tournament. HD Susauer cannot, at least not without winning twice. So he's on the route to trying that. Susauer's taken the Quick Supply Specialist, near side blue, with Stormcallers and Fangs. Dillo on the far side, a Giant Specialist, with Mustangs and Marksmen. How do you feel about that Mustang Marksman pack?
The question I have to ask when I see Mustang Marksman is, are they running Assault mode? And the answer is Dillo isn't. So I am not a terribly big fan of this starter. Like, I would honestly rather have Crawler Mustang, even though that's also still not a great opener. It feels even worse right into something like Stormcallers round 1. I mean, how do you feel about it?
I mean, it is my weakest pack. I'm not a huge fan of Marksman. I expect them to do the kind of damage that a pack of Phoenix does, and they don't. So intuitively, I play them poorly, because I have them kind of in my head in the same role, and I just need to commit harder to Marksman than I do to Phoenix. I need to commit more deploys into it. So I play them poorly, personally. And then, Mustangs can be great, but as a round 1 starter unit, unless they are going to feed off of, say, Elite Marksman or Elite Specialist and start getting levels, I am not a huge fan of them in round 1. Round 2, I love them, but round 1, not so much.
Yeah.
And I think you can see why.
Yeah, Storm sneeze on them and everything dies.
Exactly. It's not like you're going to have anti-missile on round 1. The opponent knows to throw down arc lights, which they did. And Susauer wins round 1. Dillo down to 4,800 hit points. Susauer's on 4,200. We go to round 2.
Should be told, though, taking 200 round 1 is, like, pretty acceptable. I'm very happy taking that in these early rounds. And if you can keep these losses small, right? One of the big things about Mustangs is that, in my opinion at least, they are the single hardest scaling DPS in the game. So, if you can keep them, if you can keep the rounds long and the game long, you give more chances for that Mustang to have 1 or 2 good rounds and get those early levels that it really desperately needs.
Right, and I think HD Susauer is thinking that. That's why he's picked up the Rhino Assault and dropped it on the unprotected tower back right. Dillo took Redeploy, which I love when you're in an aggro position. It gives you so much flexibility. For example, he can do something like drop this crawler here, and then next round redeploy it down to somewhere else on the flank, and it doesn't even pay the summoning sickness. All sorts of fun things he can do. He also leveled up that tower to level 2 rather than defend it. So at 23,000 hit points, it's going to take a minute for this guy to punch through. It's something like 8 punches. So it's not a minute, it's 8 seconds, but still.
It really comes down to if this tower timing is meaningful, right?
Right.
And it looks like it's going to be, these early level arcs against things like Stormcaller, Mustang, or sorry, not Stormcaller Mustang, Crawler Mustang is just turns out very strong, and Susar is going to give a heavy punch this round too.
Right, and that drops Dillo to 3950, and importantly, of course, it's really preventing those Mustangs from scaling. So it's round 3, they're still level 1. This time we get a mobile beacon, and instead of the attacker taking it, defender Susauer takes it, and Dillo took the Rhino Assault. Also, Ms. Diana is calling you out, Clint. Says, wait, Mustang's DPS scales better than Wasps? They don't have the elite marksman tech. It's true.
That is true.
Wasps are the single best DPS in the game, outside of, for example, a melting point. But it does take them a minute to get up to the point that it works. Diana, of course, is expert at doing that in the 4-player free-for-all mode. It's made her one of the top players in the world in that mode.
Yeah, that is true. Elite marksman is an option. I feel like it's kind of a coin flip though to see it nowadays on the 1v1 ladder.
She says you really can't protect Wasps in 1v1 enough.
Right. You also can't protect it against battlefield spells, so.
Right. I mean, the problem is you throw down enough things that can protect them, like shield or whatever, and then now you're not in all the full carry attacks anymore. So
yeah, exactly.
You don't get all the power out of them. Dillo has taken range on the Mustangs. Dropped a flank, dropped a Rhino in the flank, and yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dillo taking a little bit of a page out of Susaur's book and giving him the Rhino right back. But a really interesting timing here that I want to talk about that I see. Round 3 oil is something that I have heard Sacco refer to as like a necessity when you're playing against aggro. And, here we are seeing it perfectly in use. And I think this round, which should have gone Dillo's way, with this range enhancement being sneaked in, is, again, robbed away from Dillo. And, the damage keeps stacking.
Right, HD Susar hasn't had a hit point lost. Dillo's down to 3,500, and of course that oil stays for 2 rounds. Now the key thing is he finally did get the levels into those early Mustangs. They're going to be level 2. Adding some Fire Badger for both players. Sea Badger, Take Badger. I am excited for Typhoon Specialist, which is coming, and a little bit worried about Badger Specialist.
I'm so worried about Badger Spec. Given that we'll have now all the rare units behind a specialist, is there one that stands out to you as like being the strongest?
I have been loving Sabretooth right now.
Oh, it's so good.
I think Typhoon Specialist enabling Balfoon is going to be really tremendous. Like being able to plan that you have that as part of your build. And I think what we're going to see is these longer term builds where, hey, people have identified this is a Fire Badger build, and now I can run it because I'm a Fire Badger specialist. I think you're going to see developing in that way. And I kind of like that. I think that's probably good for the game.
I agree. It gives a lot. I think it, in a way, not necessarily forces diversity, but certainly enables it, right? By creating units that are not able to show up on the other opponent's board and giving certain strategies that only one player can do, or at least offering them the option to, right? I think does wonders for the game, right? Like I think an underrated Badger composition is Badger Phoenix. I think an underrated Typhoon composition, right, is Typhoon Hacker. And we actually might see a little more of that in the very near future.
Right. I think it's kind of silly that both players went for the Badger flanks here. Yeah. I think there's better uses for your Badger than just dropping them on the flank. Obviously, dropping them on the flank can be strong, but I think both of them had good plays in the main fight, but they may have had to steer away from because of this oil. The addition of the Overlord was a great choice given that the Fire Badger was present. He's going to win the round for Dillo, so he's finally on the board. HD Susar will be down to 3,800, Dillo at 3,500.
And I think something that is always worth noting is how scary boat levels can be. Early on, right, there isn't really like an effective answer in my mind outside of like similarly leveled marksman with AA. But like, for example, Susara's answering it with a melting point. And the reality, right, is if that boat ever gets on that melting point before it's begun charging up, that melting point is dead.
Right. Interesting. I was expecting him to put the heavy armor on the boat, but it's not where he's going with it.
Oh, yeah, he goes for the Fire Badgers. I think that's kind of smart. The main reason, I mean, obviously, right, the melting points are new this round, but in this scenario, right, if a Rhino is there, the heavy armor Badgers win. In the scenario of this melting point, it takes an incredibly long time for the melting point to ramp up and then clear that link efficiently. And I think a fortress would have like 2 to 3 shots per. So there's not really a great answer. It's also not double missile-able now, or I think quad missile-able.
Right.
But we have a War Factory. Corner War Factory. Here we go.
Dillo has
brought late aggro War Factory.
Corner War Factory on round 5 with efficient maintenance. So he's taking efficient maintenance because he knows that this game is not going to be over in 2 rounds. He's not going for a knockout punch with this. So he's expecting the War Factories to be on the board for a long time. If anything, I think there's a slight mistake there in baiting out the melting point with the Overlord of the previous round, but, you know, you can make the argument that he saved enough hit points on the board for that to have been worth doing. He's got the distractions in the form of these established flank Badgers, so distracted the melting point for a while. He's going to get to tower, now he's locked on the melting point, and as you can see with the tower debuff, War Factory does beat Melter.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right now,
and we're seeing. I was just going to say, sorry. We're seeing a build of yesteryear in War Factory Mustang. The thing that you desperately need when you're running something like a War Factory is very clean and very good chaff clear.
Right.
And you also need chaff. Mustangs can be both. It's perfect. It's a match made in heaven.
Right. Only thing that they are not great at is they aren't going to be out in front of this War Factory until he takes range. And if he takes range in Launcher Overload, then they'll be ahead of it again, or behind it again. So,
here's a good question for you.
Great question. The beacon's forcing a diagonal orientation to increase the number of guns firing. That's part of it. That's why you do it in front, so that you get the third gun back here engaged, and then also so that it doesn't stop. You're making sure that it doesn't include the tower in its pathing. If you've got a unit in a mobile beacon's path, the unit stops moving and to fire at that unit. It's when there is not a unit in the actual path, then the unit will continue to move along the path. So the idea is it'll continue to advance towards this tower while advancing on this tower and shooting at it, while, and as you said, having a third gun engaged here, and it's got the fourth gun for protecting against the flank. And of course the mobile beacon ensures that you can't just distract it with units coming from interesting places. Like it would.
Yeah, I think to add on to that a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
I think this is also just a good aggro angle with mobile beacons, and The reason I think that, right, is if you watch people like Conclusion or Woot, who like to do a lot of these like weird boat jump drive shenanigans, they will do this exact mobile beacon. I have been doing a lot of asym aggro fort staying, and I've been doing this exact mobile beacon. I think it just allows this like very shallow, quick run by the tower, grab it, debuff things, and kill everything on that side, and then quickly move over to the other side.
Right, it's the fact that it doesn't include the tower, so it doesn't stop to shoot the tower. That's the important
Exactly,
part about that.
yeah. Susar getting a little robbed this round. That War Factory has just a small sliver of HP.
Yeah, Susar down to 1,400 hit points. And Dillo gets the triple level 2 steel balls. We talked about that in the round 1 match, where the player playing the War Factory did not have the steel ball production, so wasn't able to make the best use of Mecdiv. Dillo does have steel ball production. This is the more typical tech loadout. The 5 techs plus 1 production on the ground, and that ground is production is steel ball. And the reason for that is so that you can make the crawlers. Oil here, I talked about this with Apucci. It actually leaves a mobile beacon out and around. You might actually want your oil more like this for really blocking this War Factory on 2 rounds consecutive. But a lot of people are thinking about getting the most value out of their round 1 drop, which is what we're going to get here.
Yeah, and we see some interesting answers coming out from Susauer here in Acid Scorps. And then range, suck.
Yeah, Acid Scorp is the canonically
What were you saying? What were you going to say?
Acid is the canonically correct answer to the War Factory. It's why the War Factory has first encoding, but your answer to War Factory should absolutely include Acid Scorpion, if not Acid Crawler, one or the other. Or both.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been seeing a lot of Acid Crawler recently, too, and I like that. I think the cool call-out from the Scorpion here is that it also pretty efficiently deals with this little Fire Badger shenanigans on the left side, so, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
The back right corner as well. It's a tool with more than one use right now. So we've got the lock, we've got suck, down goes the factory. The oil was the key piece there. It ensured that that factory was out in front of the Mustangs. The Mustangs' range weren't going to advance ahead of it. And we'll pass it on the ground. It'll be 3 surviving melters plus change. It drops Dillo to 1,300. Both players under 1,400, above 1,300. And neck and neck going into the next round.
And Susauer showing some signs of life against Corner War Factory. This is pretty meta as of late, so it's cool to see.
Double Rhino drop on the back line. We're going to get one for the Goomba Stomp on top of the crawlers, the other one right next to it. And of course the one next to it should win the fight eventually, because the one dropped in. The Goomba Stomp does take damage from the units it's landing on, equivalent to the hit points it landed on.
Now, Susauer this round went for diffraction. Does that feel like a mistake to you?
I haven't run it against Corner War Factory in this meta. The last time that I have checked, the math on that diffract is definitely a mistake against a War Factory. The thinking would be it protects you against the steel ball production, it protects you against the Mecdiv, it protects you against the Wasp, but mathematically it just does not. It does not keep up with the War Factory. You need enough damage to kill the War Factory. That is your first goal. I think he's counting on the acid from the Scorpions, and Dillo is doubling down going into this oil. The thing I was thinking that Dillo could have done here is sell the level 2 War Factory, buy 2 more on this side, and hit the long side tower off of the opposite rather than coming through the oil here.
Yeah, the hit him with the left, hit him with the right idea.
There's no reason to stay stuck behind this. You have to force yourself.
I think now that's something that's really scary here is that the Mustangs are shorter range than the War Factories,
Yeah,
and
range.
more importantly, the melting points have a shorter range than the War Factories. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Maybe it's good enough.
And he gets one.
Oh my god, it's gonna do it.
And this, with suck, it's enough. This thing, level 3, with heavy armor, gets the lock, is able to tank the shots for long enough to heal itself back up. HD Susauer does get the win. Very nice. And Ms. Diana says, I think multi-beam is sweet and sour, predicting range, giving Dillo the front Mustangs. And I think you might have been right that it did clear through the Mustangs more efficiently. There were a whole bunch of things that the multi-beam was answering, but I didn't think it was going to get enough healing out of it. I didn't think it was going to get enough DPS to out-heal the War Factory's damage, especially given the level 2. Very nicely done from Susauer. 5th place in the Weekend Tournament European last week. Still alive in this tournament this week. Dillo, one of the players who could qualify for the Lunch Clash tournament, takes the loss in round 3. Let's see who all has gotten wins. Flix was in the spoiler role. This was the round we had 25 unbeaten. So Flix was playing the spoiler against, who is this one? The Green Mountains. And Green Mountains gets the win. Jota beats Aochan. Single True gets the win against ICD. Crazy Fish over Play Archer. Play Archer is already qualified by invitation. Steel Sane wins over Lavamancer. Steel Sane is qualified by virtue of having won twice. HD Susauer wins. I Like Napping beat Shiroha. That's one of the other players who can qualify today. Zemp, who has already qualified, loses to Prince Pokey. The next line down. Goodness, what are the... Oh, Master has lost to Death is the Order. So, Master goes down. Gunjastar beats Argoneer.
That's crazy. That's an upset, by the way.
That is a huge upset, yes. Master losing is a huge upset there. So, well done to Death is the Order. This player, the longer the name, the more handsome it is. Fair enough, okay. Can't argue with the logic. And, is this a... I think this is B-Man, right? This is a B-Man alt. It's, because B-Man's official translation is B Station Shark Rookie. This is Fish Station Sharkbird Vegetable Bee. So it does sound like it. I'm going to step into Rooster and Krog to see if Rooster can finish out. You lost to B-Man? Yeah. Fair enough, whooped. I think it's a B-Man alt, right? And just to be clear, on the qualifying, it does not matter what count you were on as long as we know it's the same player. If you get your 2 wins, so Dachshund, for example, got 1 win under the name Dachshund, 1 win under the name Doggo Scientist, it does not matter. So, it's all the same player, so just get your 2 wins and you're in. Rooster is one of the players who has already done that. Rooster, sir, you have some War Factories.
Say, what is this board?
Sir, we cannot afford to upkeep this many War Factories. Even if they're efficient maintenance, which they are, you're still paying 300 a round in maintenance on this. And we do have the canonically correct answer from Krog, which is the Acid Scorpion plus the high-level Phoenix. That should be enough damage to get through, but there's a lot behind this. Phoenix, of course, are doing EMP from Crag. We are down to 1 surviving War Factory for Rooster, and not enough surviving Phoenix for Crag. Wait,
Look, we
is
did it,
enough
Rooster.
Surviving Phoenix for Crag. There
Oh no,
you go.
no way.
2 Phoenix heroes for Crag. And this is this build that Crag is running is exactly what I recommend as your answer to many War Factory. It's ranged and acid Scorpion and triple teched Phoenix with these 3 techs. It is the absolute way to build into War Factory, and it's the way to build into production War Factory, because it's also the reason that I'm running rapid reload on my Phoenix as the 4th tech. Obviously,
Interesting.
I'm vulnerable to losing out to the to spells, but the rapid reload is what's needed to get them to chew through all of the ground production, the steel ball production, the sledgehammer production, etc. And then the idea is you turn off the techs, they can't produce, you hit with the Scorpion, you get the thing stuck in acid, everything does enough damage, and Krog has the ranged napalm fire badgers, plus some fire storms to clear out any chaff that is not, the storm colors, or the war factories even.
This game's wild. Like, Rooster, we get it. War factories are meta. There's so much fire on the ground, man.
The floor is lava. It is all fire plus acid.
No incendiary bombs here.
Nope. This is an amazing board, you two. And Rooster is going to finish it out. Has 1 surviving War Factory and all the surviving Phoenix. Nicely done. Rooster at 2200 MMR, almost 2300 now. Krog just under 1900. And for Rooster, I think the big difference that last round is that I think he added Energy Shield to the Phoenix. So he had a whole lot more Phoenix survive than he had previous rounds. And also had added the sledgehammer production. There's not enough rate of fire from Krag's board, so those sledges were doing just enough to tank EMP shots from the Phoenix and keep the war factories alive. And that's why the rapid reload is necessary on the Phoenix for consistent application of EMP. He might have been better suited to go Steel Ball plus Mech Div, because there was nothing that was going to turn off. Well, I guess this guy would have turned off the Mech Div, so. But could Krag have added AA Wasps there, or was it too late? There's not a great amount of AA on the board, so it's a possibility.
I'm gonna reckon no, only because of the number of raw Phoenixes out on the board that were coming out from Rooster, right?
Right.
Unless you went like range AA shield, but then like, you're triple teching in one round and then also deploying. Krag maybe doesn't just have that money.
Yeah. The money is the problem here. I think if there's one thing that Krag could have done differently, I think, is ranging the Phoenix so they don't all walk out into the fire.
Oh yeah.
So much of the board was on fire here, and if he has ranged Phoenix that are ranged fangs that are not walking into the fire, it would have made a big difference. And so.
Yeah, I think Rooster gave Krag too many problems to worry about.
Yes, that is definitely one of the strats, right? Is give your opponent more problems than they can handle. Oh, B-Man against Napping, Susauer against Jota, Steel Saint against Rooster. We are into the round of many good matches. Do we want to see Death is the Order who's just beaten Master, or where are we going here?
Yeah, let's do that. Napping? Is that 11 versus 4 seed?
Yeah, the 11 versus 4. Death is the order versus the longer the name. We could, of course, follow some of our Western heroes, but Steel Sand and Rooster are both already qualified, so I think we might... maybe we should follow Napping again for B-Station and Napping, just as a B-Man and Napping.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll hop out of Death's the Order, and we'll peek on Napping.
Just because we know Napping can qualify if they win it. I am gonna...
Oh, that's right.
I am gonna trigger... Oh no, I did trigger ads perfect. So ads should finish right around the time this match starts. Welcome to... Is this round 4 of Weekend Tournament Asia, the Vanguard Tournament, Weekend Tournament 72. We've got B-Man against I Like Napping. We saw Napping in round 1 of this tournament. He, of course, is one of the players who can qualify for the last slot in the Launch Clash tournament if he wins this one. Napping Farside Red took a Giant Specialist with Tarantula and Crawler. B-Man Nearside Supply Specialist with Sledge and Fang.
Any early predictions for this for these early rounds? I think I like both of these drafts overall. I think Giant Spec, Crawler, Tarantula can scale very well, and similarly, Supply Spec, Fang, Sledgehammer scales pretty well too.
Yeah, I would find it hard to bet against B-Man. I have just too much respect for him as a player, so I suspect this is the end of the line for Napping, and we'll see if I'm wrong.
Ooh, spicy. I really like what B-Man does on Supply Spec here, yeah.
Round 1 Phoenix. This is 50 for the unlock, 200 for the deploy, making great use of the Supply Specialist. There's no anti-air. Round 1 to B-Man.
And man, I love... Phoenixes is one of those interesting units against Tarantulas, because I feel like, 1, they go really well with Tarantulas, and 2, really well against Tarantulas. I think it does well into mines. Whenever I see a Tarantula, I think like I really want a Phoenix. So yeah, I think it's super heads up from B-Man here. Ooh, round 2 unit drop. Anything screaming out to you, Amarok?
Well, I know B-Man likes the storms. He's taken the storms. The triple marksman for Napping as the answer to the Phoenix will let him outrange them, and it's 3 deploys. He can also take 3 more, so he could get himself 6 of them. Instead, he's going for the level 2 Mustang. Talked about scaling, how dangerous the Mustangs are while scaling, and getting them to start at level 2 certainly helps jumpstart that process.
Absolutely. I think I've talked about this a little bit on my stream, but or maybe at least in the Discord, right? But sometimes unit drops, while they're symmetrically given to each player, it is asymmetrically powerful. If Phoenixes were already one of like the natural predators for tarantulas, a level 2 sword certainly is.
Right.
It's so strong for B-Man here.
Yeah, level 2 Storm is going to do great over the top of this. Of course, the level 2 Mustangs are on the same side as the Phoenix, but they're going to have to clear through the full rest of the board before they're targeting the Phoenix. And the question is, does he have enough chaff to keep those storms occupied? He does so far. Gets in on the Phoenix on the far right. It's a really good positioning for Napping. On his Mustangs, got things done, and it was really the chaff up the middle, the Crawler that came straight up the middle over the over the helipad, as it were.
Wow, this round I feel like has no business being this close, and insanely well played to napping there.
Yeah, that was entirely his positioning at the start of the round, and I'm talking about
100%.
that pack of crawlers there, and this Mustang. They're just so beautifully positioned. So really well done.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that really starts to separate, good players from great players in this game is how well they understand positioning and how well they can, manipulate the ground to do exactly what they want it to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are spot on in that.
Yeah, and that was a masterclass right there from napping. Honestly, really impressive stuff.
Just brilliantly used to.
B-Man going for additional Stormcallers here, though. If you are napping and you're seeing 3 Stormcallers come out this round, what's your plan for like round 4 and 5?
I think I am probably switching out of the Tarantulas and planning a different Chaff Clear with a little bit better range is my plan. Among other things, I want to have something behind that's not going to get targeted by the storms quite as easily. He's taking range on the Mustangs, and there's actually potential value in a missile interceptor on the Mustangs. I know a lot of people think, oh, that's a terrible decision because it drops your DPS on this unit that you want leveling. But if the storms are killing your Mustangs, you're not getting any DPS out of it at all. So it can make a huge difference to swap that up and take them. I've run it in testing grounds and run 2 average mid-game boards and compare the DPS or compare the total damage dealt by the Mustangs for with missile interceptor to without, and the Mustangs deal more damage because they're alive longer, right? Especially if you fire off the ground or whatever your other key piece was. And Titan points out that a level 2 storm only needs 10 missiles to hit to one-shot a tarantula. So, yeah, brutal.
Yeah, it is a tough spot to be in, I think, with as the tarantula player seeing this like early Stormcaller drop into multiple more Stormcallers. Moreover, right, the early leveled Stormcaller drop.
Right, this thing was brutal.
I also wanted the comment on your comments about anti-missile. It used to be one of those techs that I would consider to be like a noob trap, so to speak, right? Like I would see like lower MMR players, not to like shoot any bads here, right, but really over rely on it, and it was like, hey, you have like 3 level 3 Stangs back here with AM not doing anything for the whole game. Maybe we should change that up, but no, it's super strong now, and I think it actually has application in games, and I run it on my as my 4 techs too.
Right, and for me, it's partly I found myself never running 4 tech Mustang. Right, you don't need 4 techs to have a carry Mustang. Right, you only need 3. So your 4th tech is a utility tech. What is your utility tech? And the utility for Mustangs, especially in a world where maybe I wasn't playing Mustangs all game long and I get them as a drop in round 8, I get 3 level 1s as a drop or something, okay, I'll give them anti-missile, who cares? They're not my DPS anymore. So there's a second utility there, and I've taken to thinking about most of my units that way, as far as I'm giving them 3 techs for when I'm running them as a carry, and 1 tech for when I get them late.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I certainly don't approach that. I think I just make 4 techs that I always want to play with the intention of maybe every now and again I'll have a 4 tech game. But I wanted to make a small read on the board here. I think Napping's going to sell the left-hand Tarantula and go right into War Factories.
Mm-hmm. This is looking like a War Factory Mustang game, and he did sell the right side Tarantula last round. He hasn't taken them It's the perfect time to be getting out. Both players take the orbital. Nuke was also offered, but orbital is just so much value. This, I would have loved to see Napping put it just a little bit further forward, because we know everything's going to advance, and I would want the center line to be right over the things I want to hit after they've advanced a line or two. But, okay, he's just thinking ahead to his War Factory placement. He's got the corner War Factory, places it over here, and that's going to pin everything in place, so none of these units are going to be moving as much as I thought they were going to be. So, I take it back, sir. Apologies, Nathan.
Yeah, and another important thing to note here is we have level 3 stings in the back supporting that War Factory. Level 3 is essentially where it starts to really come online in my mind, especially if you have like an attack upgrade from the tower.
Right.
If there's ever an item like improved firepower or haste module, you are sweating a little bit on the receiving end of the Mustang play.
Right. That is actually a really good point. That there's a subtle improvement to Mustangs where Mustang proper didn't get a buff, but did get a pseudo buff with the attack enhancement changing from plus 10%, plus 20% to plus 12, plus 24, because the units that benefit the most from that were the ones that did the least damage. So Typhoon, Mustang, etc. really benefit from it.
And we see a bunch of levels coming out for the Mustangs, and this is where I'm really starting to sweat. Not only are we behind the 8-ball with the War Factory coming out, but also I'm feeding my opponent's Mustangs.
Yeah, it's certainly a scary position for B-Man, and does not get obvious help, although I think the Steel Ball might be the right answer here. B-Man takes the Wraith. Of course, Wraith is something that you cannot shoot with a War Factory, and he can throw down degen, or he can throw down repairs to tank a whole bunch of Mustang shots.
Yeah, honestly, frontline Wraith against this corner War Factory is so interesting, right? Because oftentimes what you'll end up doing is you'll have this idea of like these like shallow flank crawlers and these crawlers that Napping has done, and that really slows down your targeting and pulls units in weird ways and allows the War Factory to get in. But the Wraith can't get stuck, so to speak,
Right.
like other units can. So it's interesting.
Brilliant little play between these two here. Napping did what I was talking about in that previous game for Dillo, sold out of the right side and bought into on the left side, while B-Man was cagey to that idea, and instead of buying one melter with range and putting it on the side of the attack, actually bought a second melter and has it covering. Of course, Napping's still getting in, and in part by dropping the level 5 Rhino on the back corner to pull a whole bunch of things, so that that melter on the left didn't have the protection it would expected. So, play, correctly read and counterplayed, and then the correct read and counterplayed was also countered by Napping's board. So another really nice set of plays by both players.
Reverse counter.
Exactly. So Napping solidly ahead after 6 rounds. B-Man down to 1771. I like Napping at 2738. Absorption is certainly one way to give one of your melting points suck if needed, without necessarily taking the tech. Could also go on
at that point. You just have to have that beam fully charged on that melting point, or not the melting point, the War Factory.
Right. He has put it on the weak side, the original right side melting point, and puts the barrier on the left side melter. Picks up a third melter for the middle.
Yeah, I see B-Man has sold off the Wraith. I don't know if you caught what was going on there, but B-Man just like threw it down in the center and let it die to the 2 stings in the center, and I felt like that was a mistake. I think what you ideally want to do, right, is make a hard read on what like the opponent's going to do, and have the Wraith in one of those corners to slow things down.
I'm surprised he wasn't using the Wraith as an actual Mustang counter, right? Like, if he had thrown down healing on it, kaboom, it's, it's, it never dies. There's nothing on the board that kills it.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, he just let it go.
And honestly, kind of something crazy from Napping here. He sells the right factory, goes left, sells the left factory, and now he's going center. It's a 1-2-3 punch here from Napping.
And B-Man again has that covered with this middle melter. Also added fire, dropped oil in the middle, and does in fact get locks on both both war factories. This time, the war factory is down. The only hope for Napping is that big rhino on the far side, and that should get locked onto as well.
Yeah, honestly, a sick read from B-Man.
Yeah, that was really nice to have the middle melter. And that's one of those things, you're at certain levels, you don't think about all of the angles, and B-Man really covered all of his angles there. Drops, I'd like Napping to 202 hit points. It's close.
Yeah, I was afraid Napping was dead there, actually. I made a small sound because
Yes,
I was like doing some quick mental math.
Yup.
But like realistically, right, that was B-Man's Alpha Strike. And though we have things like Sticky Oil Bomb and Incendiary now being presented, there is counterplay from Napping's side. And now Napping has his own Alpha Strike in both Incendiary Bomb and Oil from the tower. So it's a spooky spot for both players. It's going to be a very technical turn.
Ooh, that is a great set of Incendiary and Oil for Napping. Make sure that they overlap enough. And B-Man drops a Melter down there to slow down and kill the Rhino. He's also given the Melters Electromagnetic Barrage. We've got range and launcher overload on the War Factories. Unsurprising. Sold one to buy it into another place. It's back over on the flank. Napping did take that second mobile beacon. Titan called that out in chat. Said it was a really interesting choice. And that lets him run these two War Factories from different places with different mobile beacons. So, quite clever. Quite a clever choice there.
And in the previous round, he used it to have the Rhino do some late tanking on the left side. Yep. Very heads-up stuff. Middle Melting Point gets a lock and kills.
Yep. Trail Melter took care of the Rhino. I think this is GG's. I don't think that one War Factory is going to be able to get it done. Especially not if the... Oh no, Napping's own oil gets lit in the middle and is killing off the few surviving Mustangs. So that War Factory's going to be all but on its own here.
Oh, and it gets on the tower! Oh, it's just a series of misfortunate events. Oh.
And Napping's bid to qualify for the Lunch Clash tournament comes to an end, denied by B-Man. Well played, both of you. That was really intricate. A whole lot of technical play, all the way from the positioning of this Mustang at the very start of the game to the multiple jumps from the War Factories, the positioning of the Melters. Like, there is literally not a unit on this board that is just slapped down in a haphazard position. Both of these players really have a well thought out board. So, very worth taking a look at there from a top-down view. Very nicely done.
I think Napping's really only mistake was in the last round, not shielding around Incendiary in the center. I think everything else was like stellar. I think once you see Sticky Oil Bomb come back up and Incendiary Bomb come back up for B-Man, you have to play around it. You know, he oiled you last round.
Yep, and he's got a very good spot for it again.
Yeah.
And it's taking out these two packs of Mustangs, right? All right. Brilliant match, you two. That was a lot of fun. You want to pick one to jump into? Finish out the Steel Sane Rooster, maybe?
Well, let's do it.
All right.
If it's not done already.
I'm going to refill coffee and leave you in charge for a minute, sir.
Yes, sir.
There you
go. You see a unit drop round 9 come down. Steel Sane grabs 2 level 3 Mustangs and goes immediately into AM to complement his Farseer AM against Rooster's Launcher Overload range Stormcallers. Steel Sane leaning into his favorite unit here. As you can see, there's no giants either board, which is super fun and dynamic, I think. In these marksmen, both utilizing elite marksman and range enhancement on Steel Sane's board. This is something he sort of loves to play, I feel like. And what's super cool about this in general is that as the battle starts to, filter out some of the lesser stuff, the Stormcallers act as chaff for elite marksman, ranged marksman. But you can see there are so many particle effects on the screen. AMs from both sides under constant fire, and so many missiles in the air. But a really smart move here from Rooster, I think, is these late arriving wasps. But also, we have AM stings, which might be the difference maker here. The wasps get in, and
Wasp's got the tower.
They're gonna get the right tower too. And I think that's just enough. Yeah, Steel Sane only has 250. You can't make a mistake, and
wow,
all it takes is one round there.
Nice play from Rooster to finish that out. I really like it. The triple level 2. Did he elite recruit? Yeah, he elite recruited them to elite triple recruit and shield to get them in on tower there. And again, the positioning. We talked about the positioning being so important. And the positioning to ensure that they went straight to tower was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to run grab a drink myself, so I'll be right back.
Perfect. Teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? All right. Single True beat Hawken Space. Hawken Space was in the spoiler role. We saw B-Man beat Napping. The Green Mountains has beaten Gunjastar. HD Susauer beats Jota. Jota has been desperate to qualify for that Launch Clash tournament without going through the fraught qualifying field. So he'll be very disappointed in that result. Rooster beats Steel Sane, as you just saw. Death is the Order is your winner against the longer the name, the more handsome it is. And at the bottom, wait. This says Prince Boji. That's not Prince Boji. Prince Boji is somebody else. Prince Boji is Woot. And we know Woot was in this tournament, but this will be a 201 player taking the same name. Wait, it's a 301. Hold on. Is that Woot? There's no way. I thought Woot was in...
Yeah, that's Woot.
It's Woot under the Prince Boji name. I love it. Prince Boji, Woot, of course, but that's great. And comes in under the hard to recognize name, but tips it as by being 301 instead of 201. Love it. That gives us, where are we at? 7 unbeaten with Crazy Fish the spoiler. Crazy Fish will be up against B-Man. We could get, in fact, we could jump to Woot. Woot is one of the folks that can qualify. In fact, I think Woot might be the last surviving player who can qualify on just this win. Although, no, StarCraft Panda can as well. So StarCraft Panda against Rooster is the one qualifier, and Woot versus the number 2 seed True Spirit, or Single True, I guess. Do you have a preference? Panda versus
I want to
Rooster?
say let's watch Woot. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Are you familiar much with Woot's playstyle?
Yeah, I've watched Woot's streams and have cast him in tournament championship. So, it is.
I think he has such a unique take on the game.
Yeah, it's certainly a frustrating one to play against, and I'm glad that
True.
his style is not the current meta. It was a little brutal when it was. There was a whole bunch of people
Yeah.
copying him all up and down the ladder, and I'm glad that's fallen out of favor.
I feel like some of the 301 players have this like really unique play style where it's like very boat heavy, very wasp and worm heavy too.
Right.
And you don't think that all that should kind of jive together, but man, it's so annoying to play against, and it just kills you sometimes.
Right. Because the answers to all three are different, right? And you can't efficiently run all three answers against a board that is efficiently run if you're always responding. So you're always a turn behind. You're always under tempo pressure. There's always the danger that jump drives all the boats to somewhere else, jump drives the wasps to somewhere else.
Yeah. And then you have to play around spells, and then like try to make a hard read on where the boats are going to go. And sometimes your spells can just whiff, and it feels so bad, man.
Welcome to the quarterfinals of Vanguard Tournament Asia, Weekend Tournament Asia number 72. Near side, Woot, playing under the name Prince Boji. And the far side, we have Single Spirit, or Single True. Single Truth, maybe? Single Truth might be the best interpretation of that. Woot, Giant Specialist with our Steel Ball and Crawler. Blue is Woot, yes, Patty. So Woot coming out aggro left, and Single True coming out, well, you could pronounce this Shenzhen, if you were going to go for your Mandarin speaking. Marksman, Specialist with 3 marksmen already. I love that start. If I'm going to go marksman, it kind of needs to be this start for me to get enough deploys and early levels into the marksman that the marksmen start to behave the way that I need them to. And starts out.
I completely agree.
Starts out standard with the draw position. Fangs left enough room for a giant. If he decided to replace the tarantulas with falcons, although Woot is just going to crush this board in round 1 with that aggro offset positioning and the way that things split for Shenzhen.
Yeah, and what gets really scary here for red, right, is that there's a bunch of XP being funneled into the steel balls here. And early level steel balls, especially if we see like a portable shield early, like a nano repair kit to some degree, but also like heavy armor, like it can just become so difficult to deal with. Like also absorption module, that's super difficult and annoying to deal with as well.
Right. Luckily for the defender, the pack of steel balls fell 6 XP short of being level 2 with heavy armor this round.
But to Woot's credit, he doesn't even see the rest of the pack. He just windmill slams heavy armor.
Yep.
Don't blame him. I would too.
The difficult question here is going to be, are you taking extended range marksman? I think it's a trap because you're getting attacked at speed, right? So taking, reducing your damage throughput by reducing their attack by 20% would have been a mistake. This is also, I think, a mistake. We don't want this marksman exposed on the attack side. We want it kind of defensive somewhere, but he's going to put it right out there where it can get farmed for XP. It'll be one of the first units to go down, and I don't think it's going to do enough to chew through the steel balls. This guy is it's going to require 2-tap to shoot the heavy armor steel balls. It will 1-tap the level 1s, and he does have the air above it, so wasps will get the job done for, well, maybe they won't, because there is a pack of wasps on the flank. Oil actually...
With some crawlers, too.
That's much better. In fact, than what I was originally thinking with putting the orange man on that side. Because now we're going to slow this attack down twice.
Mm-hmm.
The problem for him is that Woot's attacking, you know, this screen was enough to protect against one pack of wasps. It was not enough to protect against the wasps plus crawlers. Now they get tower. Now they are going to feed off of Orange Man. And it's going to be that outside pack that needed the XP that's going to get it. They have leveled, of course, the pack that was 6 XP away have leveled. So it's going to come down to a Wasp v Wasp fight here. Woot may have won the ground, but single truth wins the air war and wins the round. Woot down to 4460.
I would consider this a bit of a Pyrrhic victory for Red here. The really scary thing here being that both ball groups leveled. And dealing with early leveled balls is so spooky, right? The other thing, right, is that those wasps are summons, and
right,
it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage.
Right. Woot goes straight to the Fire Badgers. In his giant specialist, he has unlocked his favorite unit, as you can see down here. His favorite unit, of course, is the Overlord. He
Overlord,
has
yeah.
already sold that pack of steel balls that was going to be running into the flames. Puts the heavy armor on the Fire Badgers. So they're just going to light this on fire so that everything else can run through it. The Overlord comes in over the top, and he's not even reinforcing this flank. He's just going to let it go. Let's see what happens.
The age-old adage remains true. You see Badger, take Badger.
Mm-hmm. See Badger, click Badger. Wait, what else was offered? I don't remember.
I didn't see anything.
Vulcan.
I just saw Badger.
Vulcan technically was offered for this slot, but even Single Truth understands that 3 Badgers are better than 1 Vulcan.
Yeah, especially at level 3, it's a lot of HP on a body.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do like his answer to the Wasp flank, which was the Wraith out there. It's more expensive, but it's a unit that's going to be valuable against everything that Woot had on the board. He did not know about the coming Overlord. Obviously, we kind of knew because we know Woot's style. So if you knew Woot stylistically, he would have been able to predict that. But it was a really solid answer to the flank. He protected the other flank as well.
Yeah, reinforcing the right-hand tower, too, buys us a little bit of time, and it might actually... Oh, I don't think this Wraith can kill this Overlord,
the
yeah.
Heavy armor... No, it's not the heavy armor Overlord. Oh my god!
Oh.
Both sides down. It's the 2 hero fangs doing, count 'em, 12 hit points of damage to Woot. Critical.
An enhancement module comes out. There's a leveled boat here that we can take and sell and do some fun stuff with.
Oh, Woot is just living the dream right now. There it is.
Yeah.
Free level.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even have to sell it right now because he doesn't have anything else he wants to level.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so he could keep it, let it farm with the +20/+20.
And realistically, right now, that enhancement module is only 50 credits off of not paying itself off. And this is basically best case scenario if you're playing enhancement module stuff. You have a giant out, it levels, you see it, you slam it, you don't think twice about it. Woot's starting to load up that boat cannon. Start running that down at you.
Is. As Addy Switcher is saying in chat, there is 1 golden ticket left to have 2 wins under the belt to qualify for the launch tournament. Woot, near side blue, is one of the players who can achieve that if he wins this very tournament, this Asia Vanguard Tournament. Portable shield on the Fire Badgers gives them all 32,000, 33,000 hit points, so that is 3 giants here. in defense.
Yeah.
But they're 3 giants that don't shoot up, and we have not yet given aerial specialization to the marksman. I mean, honestly, I was thinking aerial specialization on the marksman might have been the right round 2 choice, just knowing that it was Woot.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no air showing at the time. It's just, I know this is Woot. It's time to click aerial.
Yeah, I wonder if Woot is playing a little bit of like a mind game here by, one, not having his normal profile picture, and by 2, not having the same name that he normally does.
Right. And I love that it's tipped just enough that if you read the name, you understand, oh, Prince Boji. We know that Prince Boji is Woot. It's brilliant.
That's also one of his sub badges.
Yes. Yeah.
Profile picture. And Worm coming out for both players. I think Worm is also one of those toolkits that he being Woot here really loves to play.
Yeah, and plays well.
Yeah, obnoxiously well. Yeah.
Machine gun
and ground
boats.
Cannon coming out.
And of course, we can sell the one to get the. But there hasn't been somebody else to level yet, so he's still not selling it. Might as well just keep it. May get another free level out of this one. It got halfway to level last round, and it's got level 3 Fire Badgers to farm off of, level 3 Marksman to farm off of. And, you know, we're getting close to the danger zone here, where there's 2,200 in strong survivable units showing for Woot right now. You know, 4 Overlords, plus the Sandworm is 2,000, plus the Fire Badgers would make 2,200. So, Single Truth is really close to walking the tightrope. Is now in what looks like a Worm, Wasp, Wraith combo. A little bit late getting the Wasps started here, but has them on the board behind the Worm. Woot has leveled up that right side tower to level 2, but this grouping will still come through it.
Some really interesting stuff for Brad. I don't know if you see this, but there is a singular pack of crawlers with acid and a scorpion, I guess, to punch down these Fire Badgers. I feel like that's too much respect being given to the Fire Badgers, personally.
It could have been.
I know they're annoying, but
acid crawler is actually also going to be useful against the Worm. But it might have been a bit much for what he was seeing. But it turns out to be a pretty good play. You can drop another crawler in front of the Worm at some point. 4 surviving giants, 1,600 hit points. Single Truth is down to 839 hit points. Now we are in the danger zone, and that the Overlord has leveled again, so it's going to be level 3, and then he can sell it and have the free 400 to drop anywhere else. Ion Beam for Woot, putting it straight up the line to just create a beeline to tower. Great choice.
Yeah. If I'm red and I know I'm playing Woot, I feel like I'm very dead here. Yeah. There's a jump drive like I thought might come out. He's going to play around Ion by doing that. It makes perfect sense, right?
Right.
And Woot is going to missile out the Wasps. Dude, this feels like checkmate. And this is the stuff that you have to, like, you can't play around against, or you just have too many things to worry about, and only 2 deploys or 3 deploys a turn. So,
right,
like, it's just so brutal.
Yeah, you're answering last turn's problems, and there are new problems this turn, and it's just impossible to keep up with. Now, he does go. I saw this coming. He went with range and AA on Wasps, so it actually has a decent answer to our Overlords. Is adding a mobilized battleship of his own, is adding a Wasp Swarm, and that Wasp Swarm is going to be double-teched, and has aerial spec on the Marksman, so he's doing absolutely everything he can to answer the charge. Also did drop that acid crawler for the worm that is now sold.
The really scary thing here is how fast these boats get in.
Right. Jump drive, of course, gives them +5 movement speed. A lot of people forget about that. It does really make them quick. And, oh, the Ion Beam even took down the call-in Overlord. That is brutal. This is, in fact, going to be GG's. Well played, Woot. Getting it done here in the quarterfinals. There were 7 survivors. And we talked about coming into this game exactly what Woot was going to do. You saw it. Woot did exactly what we said he was going to do and gets the W. You can know it's coming. It's still really, really tough to stop.
I think Woot is one of those players that just so uniquely punishes your open areas while still just developing like a really solid board. Like he's like cheesing you, but he's also just building towards this end game comp that you can't beat. It's very hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's impressive. We have Panda and Rooster. Panda, of course, one of the other players who can qualify with a win here. Let's go StarCraft Panda.
Have you played against StarCraft Panda by chance?
I have not, no. I think across the map.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but StarCraft Panda is an alt for Horrible Will.
Oh, I did not know that. So
I think that's correct.
Confirm or deny.
I think that's what I've heard. I don't know. I'd have to double check. But I'm going to run with it being an alt. I actually ran into him a couple times on ladder and have managed to take a game off of him. He is so good, though. Most of my games, I feel like I'm just behind 2 turns or 2 rounds behind on round 3. So, very good player.
That's a heck of a way to describe it. It's about how I felt when I came across Rat.
I have yet to play against Rat. That's so exciting.
Oh, it was amazing. Like, hey, I took 2 rounds. They were not important 2 rounds.
And they were my oil rounds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a couple players like that for me. Like Yota, I feel like I've never taken a round off of him. The only times I have were with oil.
Right.
Like it's like it doesn't really count. You know what I mean?
I had all the spells.
Yeah.
So Rooster is, running a production war factory again. He's got efficient maintenance and range, and sledge and steel ball.
Interesting. Rooster thinks this is the second game we've basically seen him do the exact same thing. I wonder if PB thinks that production techs might be a little strong or well positioned currently.
Well, he had expressed really not enjoying this patch and this patch's balance coming for about 2 weeks or so. And, he was like, okay, I'll come cast the aces with me. And he messaged me last night and he was like, I have refound my love. I'm entering tourney. I'm going to win it. Like, all right, man, you go. So, apparently, he has discovered the joy of production war factory.
Interesting. A little unfortunate, an EMP missile RNGing onto the left side factory, but, wears off in a reasonable amount of time now. So not too debilitating here. And man, there is just so much stuff to chew through.
Right. This is the problem with production factory, right? It's just always got something out, right? It's produced another tank before he's killed that steel ball. It's got another tank out. It's got another, you're just sitting here going, what am I supposed to do against this?
Yeah, outside of having like Giga Stings just ready to go.
Well, it was, I ran against production War Factory so much when Sabman was tuning into his War Factory builds. And that was where I developed that defense that we were talking about earlier. But man, Rooster gets it done here. Beats StarCraft Panda, the Farseer specialist, with triple quad-teched production War Factory. Does almost 3,000 damage that turn and just takes the Panda out. No Launch Clash tournament for you, Panda. Gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Gatekeeping, Rooster.
Panda had so much HP too. My jaw hit the floor when I saw him at -80, and did not expect that to be lethal right there.
And that is the danger of War Factory. If they all survive, right,
True.
It is rough.
I'm gonna check out that Susauer game.
That's what I've just entered. Love it.
Nice.
As long as we've got unbeatens, we're going to put them on screen. Whoops. Alright, so StarCraft Panda had won Weekend 65 at Asia, and that was how he was on the way. So we have energy absorption on the melting point over here, far side. I think that's a pretty good answer to the war factories. These are deep positioned missile interceptor war factories.
The bane of my existence is this high-level Wraith drop, and it looks like it's about to be the bane of Blue's existence. Yeah. It's going to be very hard to deal with properly.
Yeah, coming in off the corner.
Is there even a world where this gets cleared? I don't think so before it gets the tower, right? And that might just be... Oh, I mean, there's a lot of wasps.
It is a lot of wasps, and there are still some high-level marksmen there. But Green Mountains was your mini-tournament Asia champion this week, Advanced Group 1 champ. And does punch through to tower. This tower over here is level 2, so that's why the Wraith is getting through it really, really slowly. It's got so many hit points. Of course, between the hit points and the tower debuff from the other side. Easy job. The Wraith is down, the Melter is down. And Green Mountains even destroys the anti-missile device. Insult to injury. Drops Susauer to 285 hit points.
Yeah, kind of crazy. I thought, in my head, I was looking at the board and I was like, it's not a terrible amount of damage to take in a round 10 game, but I mean, it puts Susauer into the position where he really can't make another mistake. So, and with Orbital Javelin, a spell that can't be interrupted by shields or played around outside of like some mobile beacon tricks, right?
Right.
It makes the board very treacherous for Susauer.
There is no stopping a tungsten rod.
No. Luckily, though, Susauer has 2 different breakpoints that prevents a level 2 Melter from being orbital jabbed as well. In case you're not aware, a level 2 Melter, just default, will get one shot still by an orbital jab. So it's you want either tier 1 defense and health enhancement from the tower, or one of the health techs, which is like absorption module, and that ends up saving and breaking that 70,000 damage threshold.
Right, his Not getting there this time. He's only got the one tower enhancement. Doesn't take the second one to dodge it, like you were talking about. Does, however, drop his own to take out the Vulcan and one of those level 5 marksmen. Of course, it'll scratch the paint on the War Factory as well, but that's not really the point. This melter was to answer the Wraith. The Wraith is gone.
And so many storms coming out from Zeus our side. And they are triple tagged. We have fire, EMP, and range.
That is interesting. We're going to shut off the steel ball production if we land it and the EMP, but we need to land it. We do land it. We've shut off the anti-missile with EMP. That's what I meant, not EMP. Shuts off the anti-missile. This one actually was left untouched for long enough that it got back on and intercepts the rest of it. Of course, anti-missile devices get worse the longer they are employed. They heal a little bit if they're EMP'd, so they come back at full strength. But, I mean, they heal in general if they're not being used, and EMP causes them to not be used. HD Sushauer wins round 10 with all those storms. We're going to an epic round 11 here.
With Lightning Storm!
Green Mountain against Sweet and Sour. Oh, it's a little rough to get this heavily into Wasps and then see Lightning Storm show up.
Yes, sir. That is a feels bad.
Of course, Sweet and Sour has to buy shields everywhere.
It's true. But, I mean, realistically, right, so does Blue here. Yeah, they also have to play into this, Lightning Storm. I have to shield everything.
Yeah, especially the shield in that corner to shield the Stangs. That's a good choice. This bubble could have been a little further back, I think, to protect this set of Stangs.
So, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still Lightning Storm the shielded side, the side they're going to shield, right? Because the Stings are there, the Chaff is all there, the War Factories are there. Or do you do the anti-thing and try to get ahead of the opponent by going in Lightning Storming the side to be more unlikely shielded? But it turns out Blue does shield, though.
Both of them shielded both sides. I have been trying to be more unpredictable lately, so one of the things I've been doing is using dice to decide key decisions like that, so that I don't have an obvious tendency. So, for example, my opening positions, if I'm on ladder or in tournament, I will roll dice to decide. I still make the decision myself if I'm in, a friendly, a 1v1 or whatever, but for tournament matches, throw down dice and ensure that I don't have an obvious recognizable tendency. And, for example, Woot does have an obvious recognizable tendency.
And he's playing around with that fact.
Poochie, well, he does kind of hope to pull people into it, but one of the ways that Poochie beat him last week was to know his tendencies that well. So he was able to line up to create the headbutt on round 1 and win the headbutt, and then be able to know that he could defend his other side because he's winning the headbutt to begin with. On the left, Green Mountain has pushed through to the left side tower with the third War Factory added. It is going to be enough to take everything down. Sushauer's last chance is to take out the War Factory. It's not going to happen. Green Mountain's your winner.
That was actually so cool. There was some very, very tight positioning from both players in that. Watch that last round carefully and look at how unfortunate some of these melters get with the marksman locks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. Cool stuff.
Very neat. Green Mountain's through to the semifinals, and since B-Man beat Crazy Fish, we are guaranteed a 7th round. No spoiler, in round 6, we will have just 4 unbeaten. It's going to be Green Mountain against Woot, Rooster against B-Man, I think we might have to follow Woot.
I'm so down. I think what's so cool, right, is that this person might not know that this is Woot. But if it was Rooster against Woot, Rooster would absolutely know that that was Woot.
Right. Yeah, that is pretty neat. And of course, Woot is the last surviving player who can qualify. He's currently sitting in the 4th seed, having beaten Ferginant, Zemp, Crazy Fish. Let's go. Welcome to the semifinals of Vanguard Tournament Asia. Of course, not yet. I might have been premature. Darn it. I'm excited.
Regardless, though, welcome.
Excited.
We're glad you're here.
I started doing that for every match because I was thinking I was going to just cut them up for YouTube and have each match as its own, as its own piece, and so I'd have the welcome for it. I've never actually done it when I've done them for YouTube. And speaking of which, we are live on YouTube today, so hello to the YouTube audience. I've never actually cut them up that way. I've just left them as all 7 together. It still kind of works if you're tabbing through, because I'll make the broadcasts into chapters, so you can kind of tab through and pick the match you wanted to get to. Like, oh, I don't care about round 1 or 2. I'm going to jump to the quarterfinals or something, and just watch the last 3, if that's the way you wanted to go with them.
Well, that used to be like how you kind of approach these tournaments, but I'm gonna say I think this one's a stark contrast to that rule. Yeah. Like it's been stacked since round 1.
Yep.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, last week's and this week's have both been that stacked.
Man, people are getting back in for release. I see a bunch of old faces coming back, like Tungdill. How cool is that? So yeah, I think people are getting really hyped up about release. How are you feeling about it?
I'm pumped. I am pumped. All right, welcome to round 6, the semifinals of Vanguard Tournament Asia, Weekend Tournament Asia number 72. We have Green Mountains against Woot. Green Mountains took the Sabertooth Specialist. Woot, the Marksman Specialist. Green Mountain, with the defending Asia Mini Tournament Champion, took the kind of scary Mustang Marksman pack. Not the first person we've seen take that, but I think I like it a lot more with the idea that I'm going to have Sabertooth in front of it. And if you knew you were going up against Woot, I think this is the pack you wanted. Mustangs and Marksman.
Yeah, Mustangs, Marksman, really solid early on. Maybe it's not so solid early on, but if you know who you're playing against here, it is ideal. I completely agree. You get the AA spec in both of those units, and that can really shut down some of that Wasp boat play that you'll see Woot do a lot of.
Woot has done field recovery to sell a Stormcaller. Starts with the Stormcallers on the line. Had the Fangs that don't really suit, so he's using the Fangs in flank screening positions. I have heard people say, like, this is so suboptimal, right? But then you see a player of Woot's caliber doing it, and the idea here is he's never going to have to worry about a Phoenix flank, he's never going to have to worry about a Wasp flank, and even things like a Rhino call down, these will slow them down a lot because you don't have spin to win on that call in.
Yeah, Woot does a lot of these very weird ASIM starts. Like, I wouldn't really call this aggro, but, it is forward positioned. I'm gonna be honest, I think he's, like, brilliant in these positions, and I borrow a lot from his games. Like, we'll see likely next round an early tower enhancement to level 2, and then I think we'll probably start to see some War Factory play later on, which is kind of atypical for Woot and might be like one of those counter reads, you know?
Yeah, both sides took the laser sight. I am expecting Woot to sell right there. Yep, the other Stormcaller. That's not really what he wanted. But now he's positioned. He's got 550 available. He's wide open to throw down whatever he wants in his aggro positions. And, yeah, here he comes. We've got a Fang up front. We've got a Crawler up front. Now we've added a Sledge up front. And a Sledge in that flanking position to pull this... I think that was probably to pull a Crawler, but it'll successfully pull a bunch of the Mustangs as well. And he's added laser sight to his level 3 marksman. Sledges to tank. And I think he is building into his... straight into his Overlord, right? Sledge plus Overlord was the meta for a long time. And Woot is one of the people responsible for that meta, sir.
You know, I made the read on War Factor, but I actually completely agree with him unlocking sledges and playing the way he's playing. This feels like a classic boat sledge push. Because, you know, and look, on the left side, that tower has been increased or enhanced.
You called it.
We have what's going to be probably a reverse tower timing that favors Woot here, hopefully.
Yeah, he gets that tower. And do the Mustangs get to farm Orange Man? They do. That is exactly what Green Mountain would have wanted to see. Those folks with the laser sight have already leveled. They'll be level 2 next round.
Look, I know Woot's not streaming, but I can hear him yelling right now.
I do think that one's interesting too, right? Woot is like, no, I'm focused. I'm gonna go win this. I'm not going to be distracting myself with chat. I'm not going to be looking at conversing with people. I'm not going to be showing what I'm doing or talking about what I might do. You know, I'm not trying to entertain an audience. I'm just going to go win and qualify. There's money on the line. He adds a third Sledge and a Fang. Green Spirit has the call-in slightly offset, so it's going to pull more crawlers towards this tower than that tower. Obviously wants to hit the unprotected, unleveled tower more than the level 2 tower. The Fangs in that screen position do come over to contribute. This is one of the things they're half decent at, but not ideal at protecting. So, Green Mountain gets the tower, has leveled Mustangs cruising around the board, different places, and taking advantage of tower debuff. He's going to punch through the whole board.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things with that Underground Threat spell early on is sometimes you're trying to develop your board and you can't really like afford to play around that spell. And, you know, you'd rather take it on the chin now in the early rounds rather than much later in the game when you know, it could be even more deadly with like a replicate, something else sort of combo. Age-old adage being true once again, Amarok. You see Badger, you take Badger. Both players see Badger, take Badger.
Indeed. And Green Mountain adds the Scorpions. So that is going to be a solid answer to the Fire Badgers. Sold out of the Sabertooth. Felt like the Sabertooth was answering the Sledges really nicely, but is now committing to the Scorpion. And that kind of indicates maybe they're not thinking of this as Woot, because Sabertooth, while answering the Sledges, also had the potential to do anti-missile and help answer the Overlord potential.
A lot of flanking and positional play here going on. These Mustangs on the left with laser sights are going to be a bit hosed by the Fire Badgers on the right, or sorry, on the left. But also we have Fire Badgers at level 2 warping in on the right backside. That also should do kind of okay against this flank. But I'm very curious to see what the intention is for blue here. Is the comp idea sort of going to be Fire Badger, Scorp, Marksman, Mustang, or what are we going to see a transition into?
No, that looks like it, right? Let's finish with this, because you've got your chaff clear, you've got your ground single target, you've got your air single target, you've got your air chaff. So Woot in a lot of trouble right now. That this board answers all of the obvious things that he could do. So it's going to be a get really creative, come up with something, and come up with it this round, because you've only got 800 hit points left.
Yeah, and a really strong item comes out for not only Mustangs, but also Fire Badgers in improved firepower control system.
I have not considered running it on Fire Badger. That's fun.
I mean, if it's good on Vulcan, it's good on Badger, you know?
Right. That makes really good sense. I just always think of Fire Badgers having such low actual damage, and I'll just deal the Napalm and Ignite if I need them to do damage. Hey, look, you have had this right all game long. Woot goes to the War Factory instead of the Overlord this game. He's left himself that 7x7. He switches it up, puts it on the other side. Opponent does have Acid there, so next round he's going to need to take Photon immediately. But this round he's got 2 War Factories and a weakened side. He sold out of the pole on this side. That's part of... presumably part of this. Well, now he's got them in both corners, so never mind. Takes the oil. Are we going to trap things in the corner? Yeah, that's pretty solid. And then a mobile beacon.
There's a shot this oil gets ignited here, huh?
Yeah, with the lit on fire by the Defender's Fire Badgers. So it's not going to be slowing down the War Factory. They note that the Scorpion did get a pretty quick lock, and could conceivably be throwing down acid. We could be throwing down acid with the crawlers, so we're absolutely going to have to take Photon Coating next round, or he's going to lose.
And man, let me tell you, acid with Mustang supporting it, it shreds War Factories, man.
Right. It spot him around, though, and that was what he needed. He absolutely had to win round 5 there. So, dealing 1,300 damage brings Green Mountains down to 3,400. We go to round 6 of our semifinal. And, Woot, would you like some free Overlords? How about that, sir?
And acid does come out on the crawlers. A lot of avenues for acid here, and if acid stangs don't kill a War Factory fast enough, acid Overlord will too.
Yeah, Woot is not above accepting the gift from Bear Lake in the Overlords, but Green Mountain is going to go for Missile to clear out any chaff that might defend this flank, or this run, and then we're just going to run Launcher Overlords straight at the tower.
And if I'm not mistaken, right, it only needs 1 volley to kill a level 2 tower from both of those boats, so...
And one of them has the laser sight, so we've sold out of the laser sight back here.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just got the whole boat group, the whole flotilla coming.
And this looks pretty bad for Woot. Just initial impressions here.
Right.
Woot went for the photon on boats here, and I think it's gonna, that means the opponent can go damage, and that can be the tempo swing. That's all that's needed when you have 900 HP.
Right. Now, one of the big differences between those two is that the boat photon, because it's affecting more than one unit, only lasts 20 seconds. This guy's photon would have lasted 25, so he'd have been getting 5 extra seconds out of his boats, or out of taking photon on the War Factory, but it did mean that he could run Launcher Overload for cheaper. But as you can see, that photon has worn off, he's still stuck in the acid, both factories are down, and it is lethal damage. Congratulations, Green Spirit, you are through to the finals. Woot is knocked out at the semis. So, what that means. What that means is Europe is going to matter for qualifying.
Ooh.
We will have a stacked field for Europe as well. Let's go. Speaking of, let's jump into B-Man and Rooster. B-Man, by the way, has no qualifying victories. So he is somebody who was not a straight invite. He would be looking for the opportunity to qualify here. Or giving himself the opportunity. He needs to do the double today to achieve it. Or, have the... have the open slot last into next week.
And Rooster once again leading in with what looks like to be Prod Factory. It looks like the same build. What's going on here?
Build, and he's loving it. Like he said, it's reinvigorated his love for the game. And I have to agree. I think Production War Factory instead of War Factory, Battle Factory is a really fun way to play it. I would like to see that be the meta for the unit. Rather than, I'd actually like it to be kind of weak if you get it into battle. Right? I want it to
I'm kind of on the same opinion, honestly.
Sit back there, be a huge hit point buffer, be absolutely crap at defending itself. If somebody gets the, maybe let it be able to defend itself from chaff, but not really, I don't want it to be taking down other giants. I want it to be relying on its produced units to take down other giants.
Yeah, and realistically, around 6 loss with this much HP on the board, not so bad. Yes. Rooster basically has a full health bar. You can take this to the chin and feel very comfortable feeling into the rest of the game.
He's on 3,400 hit points. He's got B-Man on just under 2,000, and he's 3 War Factories in.
Guess this is a War Factory around past round 4?
That's what it looks like, yeah. I mean, I'm going to have 800 from income. I'm paying 100 per War Factory, or 50 per War Factory now. So, by round 7, I'm going to have 1,400 income minus 150. Round 8, I'm going to be 1,600 minus 200. Maybe I even sell something at that point to afford a, round 8 is drop 2. Round 9 is drop 1 again. The Switcher asks, can't Rooster win? Can't Rooster win a spot? I'm sorry, no, Rooster has already qualified. Rooster won week 63 and week 70, I believe, to get himself in. Oh, week 63 and week 64, he was the very first to qualify by the double tournament route.
And back-to-back, what a dominant performance.
Yes, that was amazing. Back-to-back European champion.
That's usually a very, very stacked tournament. I think, just speaking candidly here, I think in terms of like stacked and not stacked, it's like Europe, Asia, very close second, and then North America in a distant third, or the 501 in a distant third.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because it's not that the 501 is the weaker, it's that the Americas tournament is at a terrible time for Europe and Asia.
Yep, so exactly.
They don't get... that very yellow guy says, I misread what double tournament meant and thought you had to win 2 on the same weekend. No, it's just win twice. So Rooster did it by winning twice on different weekends. Steel Sane did it by winning twice on different weekends. It's only Dachshund and Apucci that have actually done the double. Rooster has knocked B-Man out, so B-Man won't even be making progress towards qualifying this morning. We go to a final between Rooster and Green Mountain. Well, now, speaking of making progress, Green Mountain is somebody that could make progress. They are not currently on the list of folks who've got a round 1.
What an interesting little build Rooster is up to.
I'm loving it. I'm partly loving it because, I enjoy Rooster enjoying the game. You know what I mean?
Me too.
And Okay, that's just me in a nutshell, I guess. Is I like seeing people enjoy this game. It frustrates me when people are frustrated, and I'm happy when they're happy. And I try to take that ethic even into having my opponent enjoy my frustration if I'm frustrated. Like I'll be like, would you quit eating my artillery? If he's got his crawlers all the way into my, into my storm crawlers or something, like, how
Yeah,
rude.
no, I completely agree. Like, I think a tough thing a lot of games have to try to navigate, right, is this idea of making losing fun. And, games can get into a lot of trouble when it's not fun losing and it's also not fun winning. So
Right.
it's a tough line to walk. And, we've all been frustrated by the game, I think, right? We've all had our off days or off
Right.
weeks. And, I'm glad to see Rooster enjoying it too, because, been having a tough time with it. It feels like a little bit ago.
Yeah. He said this particular balance patch, the 09 balance patch, just had not been suiting him. It's also interesting to hear Zemp say the same thing, right? Zemp was like, this is not suiting me. And he lost, last week, he lost round 1 of the Asia tournament. And he was just like, I'm thinking about throwing it down and just like giving it up. And then he turns around, shows up, and wins the Americas to qualify for the Launch Clash tournament. So, it's the quality of player that Zemp is, right, is that he's able to do that sort of thing. This patch does not suit my playstyle. It doesn't suit the things I really want to do. I'm going to adapt myself to what this patch does enable.
Yeah, and I think that demonstrates just the sheer flexibility of some of these players, right? You might look at some of the top players and see that they only play one specific way, and then think maybe a little negatively of them. But Zemp, it had a very straightforward play style, a very standard defensive, melter heavy, stormcaller, firecaller heavy build. For a very long time, and if he's not doing that still, or if he's still finding a way to make it work, that is worth studying and worth looking at and trying to figure out what little adjustments they're making, so that maybe you can apply it to your style play too.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. In particular, we watched Flower Fairy last week win the Asia 71. He had just an amazing set of little pieces to his standard game that caused a whole bunch of tempo pressure. And just, it's tiny little things in positioning, in choices that he was making, that make the difference between playing standard at 2400 MMR and playing standard at 1800 MMR, right? It's
Absolutely.
a very different game. And
absolutely,
watching the differences was just amazing. It's very instructional, and so many little pieces. It's definitely worth, I would say, if you're wanted to study that might be a game to download some of Flower Fairy's games and to take a look at them in replay before they expire, because a lot of things, it's been announced, right? The 23rd is the day that the 1.0 patch is coming to production. It's going to be on the servers on the 23rd. The official launch of the game is on the 26th, of course, but we're all going to have access to the 1.0 build from the 23rd, those of us who've been in early access. So we're all going to be able to play with it. But that does mean your replays are going to be expired, so if you wanted to study Flower Fairy's 0.9 meta, you've only got about 2 days to do that. You can download them, obviously, if you click on a tournament. You can go take a look at and download any of the matches from it. Flower Fairy, of course, is the winner, so easiest to find in that weekend tournament, Asia 71. Just had a brilliant run.
Yeah, so to bring it back to the game a little bit, a big weird Stormcaller mirror. I'm not sure who I really know who to favor here. This is an uncomfortable board state for me to navigate. We have an underground level 2 sandworm with heavy armor. Wait, I don't think I've ever played against that. So
Yeah, this is Void-esque, but Void does like 7 of them with items. And it turns out items on sandworms are really strong.
Makes sense.
They have so much hit point and so much attack, so much splash, that giving them bigger radius on the attack makes a huge difference. And of course, giving them more hit points makes a huge difference. It's made me really respect, for example, an Amp Core or a Absorption Module on Sandworm.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I feel like I don't have a lot of experience playing Sandworm as a whole. I did a little bit of Waspworm Wraith back in the day, but I tend to avoid that unit entirely.
Yeah, it's not part of my go-to, but I did a really fun coaching session with Yes Win Big where we played Waspworm Wraith over and over against each other. That was just super fun to do and to learn. And there's a lot of subtleties to it, right? Like when to bring out the worm, when to bring out the wraith, because they both counter the Mustang, but they do it in different ways.
Yeah.
And it really depends on what the supporting units are as to which one you really need. And then, of course, they both work together and complement each other. It's the question is which one did you bring out first and why. So this match
this
is
round
insane.
goes to time. That's crazy.
So 2 rounds in a row we've seen go to time. We're on to round 10. And GoDog, for those that don't know, is one of the invitees from the 201. So we'll be part of the Launch Clash tournament. I'm very excited to announce the other one, but I'm not going to spoil that one yet. So.
This is another one of those players that I have yet to ever take a game off of. GoDog has my number. He's punching my ticket regularly on ladder, let me tell you.
I haven't encountered GoDog on ladder. I'm just not high enough MMR to pull him yet. But I've met him on the beta test server, of course. And he is so good. I don't think I've beaten him at all even on the test server.
Just plays so weird.
He plays really well, but he's also a total gentleman. Again, it's one of those people that's just, I really appreciate the cheerfulness, etc. to run into him. It was really fun. In fact, if you hate the fact that Replicate now costs $250 instead of $200, you can basically put that straight on GoDog, because it was a change for free-for-all mode. It came out of what GoDog was doing on the beta server in free-for-all mode, which was start with a 3-pack of crawlers, add 2 crawlers, take a loan, and buy Replicate for $200. And it paid for itself. And he'd just run over the board. He'd wind up with more crawlers than he'd started with in round 1, and have gotten all the monies. And it's just
oh my gosh.
Dear God, stop. So they had to bump it. And of course, it looks like this kind of odd change if you're just on, if you're only seeing production, if you're not seeing behind the scenes at the time. It just felt odd, right? Like, why did they change Replicate? Replicate wasn't a problem. Yes, Replicate was definitely a problem. It just wasn't where you guys could see it yet. This
That's very fair.
Wasp flank from the corner from HD Susauer, getting a lot of work done. And I think that is that no? Now we've got the opposite side tower. Goodness.
I think the Wasps carry it? I don't know, though.
This is amazing. We're gonna go in circles. We're gonna wind up with like Wasp v Wasp. No, this certainly this War Factory's got enough hit points to tank for GoDog.
Crazy.
And it's enough. Round 10. GoDog gets the win against HD Susauer. That is the end of round 6. We'll be through to round 7. And appreciate you guys being with us here this morning. It's cost us a lot of coffee, of course. But, Clint and I are really happy to be here.
I certainly am. I love talking about this game.
Your enthusiasm really shows in your voice, man. I can hear it.
I
can
appreciate
hear how much
that.
you love the game, and to know that you're doing that at this hour of the morning. We are both, we're both Pacific time. We're both up super early, up before the sun to bring this one to you guys. But I'm glad we were here. I will be, obviously I do end cast after the stream. I've got other things to do, but so if somebody's on and wants to be on to get rated to, it'll be a good time to be starting your stream up. And for those of you that don't know, of course I should give the shout out to clintleetwood here. So this is Clint's channel. You can give him give him a follow if you haven't found him before. Round 7, the final. Rooster against Green Mountain.
I'm excited for this one. Just so you know, if you tune into my stream, don't get too hard on me if I get a little salty.
It's not always as family friendly as my stream. Is that what you're saying?
Not at all. My years in the food service has marred my vocabulary, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, thank you guys. We really appreciate Switcher and Whoopter saying thank you, and we're grateful for having you cast, and great cast. So really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So Clint, you're entering that Launch Clash qualifying, right?
Oh yeah, I've been beating my head against the ladder to secure enough MMR.
Yeah, I think you're pretty solid, but yeah, it is gonna be a tough field. I was looking at it. It's just like, oh my god, there's nobody in there that I think is a pushover.
Is all-time MMR from the same time frame that the tournament's winning, or is it
60 days? So it's going to be really close.
I am a sure-in then. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah. It's going to be really close. It's not including all those old super inflated MMRs, so you don't have to worry about those.
Yeah, I think that was like 2070. So
yeah, you're going to be fine for getting in. It's just a matter of what your seed is. Welcome to the final of Vanguard Tournament Asia. RoosterPB, Nearside, and Blue has been playing those War Factories all day long, enjoying the game with a production War Factory build. It's good to see you back, Rooster. And on the far side, Green Mountains looking to secure the first half of qualifying for the Launch Clash tournament. Of course, Rooster has already qualified by virtue of winning Europe 64 and Europe 63 back-to-back European champions. Has secured his spot. Green Mountains is looking to get halfway there for the last remaining spot that gets you out of having to go through the qualifying tournament on the 29th. Of course, links to register. Registration is still open for that Launch Clash tournament. You'll find links to register in the description below the video. What do you think of these opening packs, Clint?
Let's take a look. So we have Quick Supply with Fang Stormcaller, which I think is like probably pretty great for what PB's been doing in this tournament. I imagine this is like kind of the base that you want to do or want to have, right? And he has the option of just dropping 2 Stormcallers here and then rounding out his board with Chaff and then adding in those War Factories around 4. And I think that's like a valid route. And then we have Marksman, Mustang, Crawler.
Now, interesting to me that Green Mountain, I think, is actually picking Mustang and Marksman, which a lot of folks at our level, in the 501, are thinking of as one of the weakest starting packs. But we saw them take that in the semifinals. We saw them take it again in the finals. They had plenty of other options. It's not like they were forced into this. I think this is legitimately their preferred choice.
Yeah, and the beauty of one of these packs, and probably one of the underrated benefits of playing this this kind of build, or at least opening pack, is that it has a lot of HP. 5200 HP with Rhino spec, which is, a huge round 4 tempo swing. Level 2 Rhinos is nothing to scoff at. It's at least 300 credits going back into your economy, right?
Right.
But yeah, Marksman Mustang is one of those comps, right, that when you see it in an opening pack, you think, right, it should work, right? It works on paper. You have your chaff clear and your single target DPS, but it feels uniquely difficult to pilot.
It's tough, and I think part of that is that each of those units are hyperscale units. They are powerful at level 2 and above with techs, and they're really weak at level 1 without techs. Both players skipping. Extended range sledge was an interesting offer there, but neither player is interested in playing sledges at this point, at this level. Stormcaller for Green Mountains to just kind of mirror. And that's their first real chaff clear outside of the Mustangs. Rooster takes 1 storm. Are you trying to start to float some cash? Is that the direction this goes, or is it... Yeah, we will, looks like... Nope, we're going to mass recruit, so it's more crawlers. Those will be the corner crawlers, I would assume. Yep, to move around with metal here, but you can see them. They're down in the corners. He's leaving room for the Rhino, potentially even for a giant if there's a weird flank down there. But other than that, he's in standard positions.
I love what PB is doing. He round 1 mass recruit on quick supply spec, which is something I feel every time I've done it, I do it to like get this huge early tempo lead, and it feels kind of like a cheese in a way. And it was all chaff right from round 1 from Rooster, and then round 2 was mass recruit chaff again.
Right.
It was this is one of the
it was 1 storm and 2 chaff, right? So he's got the storms to do 600 hit points of damage when they survive, and the chaff to make sure that they do survive. And we talked about Green Mountain having a huge amount of hit points. They're already below Rooster. They're down to 4,100. So he's done a lot of damage.
And one of the things that this, you were talking about it earlier with Marksman Mustang being a hyperscaling comp, one of the things that it's weak to is early mass crawler. Right. Especially if there's a level 2 crawler on the field.
And that's exactly what Rooster did. He bought 5 crawlers. It's not just chaff. It was specifically 5 crawlers. So he really knew the weakness of this particular comp. Now he's taking 3 Sabertooth, level 1 sabers. And Green Spirit has taken the 3 Rhinos. Neither of the Rhinos are down in the corner. They both sold out of one of these, so they're using them to fund, right? And I know it's hard to see from this angle, but the 2 Sabertooths are right in front of towers there for Rooster.
There we see the Phoenixes that usually complement this War Factory heavy build. I wonder if by round 4 will we see a War Factory come down. What do you think?
He's not floating, but he will be able to afford the unlock when he sells a Saber. And we know we're not going to have a unit drop that round, so it's 200 for the selling the Saber, 800 to buy the unit outright. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that's exactly the direction he's going.
You say he's not floating, but he's floating 50 credits, and that's efficient maintenance, baby.
It's true. It's very true. So that may be specifically counted for exactly that purpose.
I think so. I wouldn't put it past PB.
And the fun thing about this build is, if you haven't been watching him all tournament, Green Mountains does not see production War Factory coming right now. Right? There's just no
No, I was actually...
bog standard build right now. This is the standardest of standard meta builds from Rooster.
Yeah, this is a very novel concept that we're seeing come out of Rooster. I was just going to say that... I was going to mention last round that I think it's a mistake to go for the 3 Rhinos here with the intention to sell them off, right? What ends up happening is you're now committed to 4 rounds of selling, and realistically, I don't want to be dealing with what Rooster's going to be pushing at me at round 8, because it's going to be like 3 war factories with triple production techs, and we're probably just dead at that point, you know?
It's not war factory yet. We throw down the 4th storm. Are we teching? Do we tech the Phoenix? Or tech fire for the storms as one of the preps? Because he's still showing bog standard, right? He's added the 4th Fang outside for that, kind of...
He is floating 800, so it will be 2 war factories next round.
2 war factory round 4. Yeesh.
It might even be 2 factories and a tech.
Yeesh. And it still looks bog standard. Right, unless you're counting the monies and you're like, hey, wait, where did the money go last round? Oh.
Yeah, if you're red here, alarm bells should be sounding in your head right now.
There's one thing I kind of like, and I get why it's not there, but I would love to see my opponent's money.
Oh, I kind of like the poker aspect of that, though. But I totally get what you're saying.
Just because it's one of those things that if we completely, played a complete open board, right? All the rules are common. We should be able to count this. You're spot on, right? There were two war factories plus efficient maintenance there.
And it's like almost perfectly mathematical. He can sell off that Sabertooth and go for a 1/1 upgrade and then, like, I'm gonna be honest, if he does that, I love this build. I feel like that is like a very good timing to have 1/1 buy. 1/1 being both. Oh, he does it. Oh, it's perfect, man. It's beautiful what I'm watching right now.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
This feels.
We knew it was coming.
Sorry.
We knew it was coming, and it's still fun to watch. I can see why Rooster's enjoying it.
Oh yeah, it's hitting all the right timings in my head. It's, 2 war factories around 5, which is basically a round 4 war factory, and a round 5 war factory. Just sacrificing a little bit of tempo. It's super cool stuff. And yeah, huge tempo swing back in Rooster's favor here. Takes it on the chin last round, and throws it right back.
Had enough hit points to take it on the chin, right? You talked about it before. The last two times we've seen him, he's been holding on to enough hit points early on, and putting the tempo pressure on. And we talked about it with the storms surviving. Now he does. All 4 storms survive, both war factories survive. That's, 2,000 damage. It drops Green Mountains down to 2,200, and all of a sudden you're in a lot of trouble. Here comes the Phoenix production. There's still 800 available to buy the 3rd war factory. Right on cue. It's almost like we've worked together. Thank you, Rooster. And, oh, by the way, we have EMP for the Phoenix to turn off any of the obvious answers. So, for example, you're going to get your Vulcan with Ignite or Scorching Flames. We're going to turn them off with EMP. And so Green Mountains goes for a pair of Overlords and a pair of Melters with range enhancement. Yeah, chat calling it out there. There is no acid deployment coming.
Oh.
Acid was the answer that Green Mountains needed. The mountains may be green, but we need some environmental damage here, sir.
Yeah, I wonder if we see fire colors coming out for PB here momentarily.
I don't think so, because I don't think you get another round.
Oh, yeah, you know what?
No, I might be wrong. There's just 2 of the factories have gone down. There will be another round.
Almost
590.
barely not, though.
Both players skip. 1,300 available. That could be 2 levels plus War Factory number 4. Or War Factory number 4 plus text somewhere.
Might just be sledgehammers. Sledgehammers would do very well into Red's board, I think. But nope, it's going to be shields. Oil is probably going to be in play from Rooster here. And there's the fireballers. Nice.
Firestorms. And level instead of 4th War Factory. So one of the things that I think it may be better if you're playing this build, it might be slightly more optimal to bring, especially when this was especially true when efficient maintenance only dropped reduced upkeep by 100. It was valuable to tech before you brought out the 2nd War Factory. So it would be like, round 1 would be War Factory efficient maintenance plus 1 tech, and round 2 would be the double War Factory drop. And that's kind of one of the changes that Rooster's done. He's kind of identified that efficient maintenance is saving enough, but I can actually afford to drop the 2 and start getting levels into them, start doing hit point damage to the health bar with them. So I'm really count on that for making this, putting the pressure on and ending it relatively quickly.
Yeah, one of the things that I definitely came across when I was playing around a lot with War Factory was that before I added on a 4th War Factory, I always wanted to have it triple tacked. And if we're doing the same thing but with 2, right? So before we add on a 3rd War Factory, we want to make sure our War Factories are double tacked. I think is actually maybe a good rule of thumb to approach this unit. Like, this unit does scale to the moon, but it also stunts your overall economic growth and into the late game, especially when we start to loan. So it's you need to take those techs.
Right, and the reason you take the techs early is so that you're paying less in upkeep overall. But again, you do the less overall damage. Green Mountains does appear to have stabilized this round, with dropping Rooster down to 1,400 hit points. We've got Ion Blast for both players. If you are Green Mountains, be aware of the things you actually need to turn off. They are not the War Factories. They will be either the Phoenix or the Perfect or the Stormcallers. And I would have rather seen this start a little bit further over, just to, in case this bubble wasn't perfectly positioned. Rooster has positioned it perfectly, but the further over you've got it, the longer you have it. If this bubble were just here, you'd be burning through bubble and then reaching Stormcallers. So, between the shields,
do we see a 3rd tech, you think?
I would expect, between the shields and the Ion Beam, he's spent down to the point that he doesn't have 800 left.
We do,
and it's going to be a battle tech. It's range, so plus 40 range. That gives them 155 meter range, which is more than the Phoenix have. It's 20 more than the Phoenix. So your Phoenix are actually going to get out in front and act as tanks. He's also sold one of the factories to move it to the other side, just kind of ensuring, I think, that it's just out of the beam. And
that was my read on it too.
That is where that beam is going to wind up. But look how that beam is really nice for hitting those Phoenix as well. It's really well positioned, I think.
I think the other move with making the War Factory go right is that there is just less melting points over here. So we might be able to win this side harder, get more productions out, and, or to scale a bit harder.
Now, here's an interesting one. Way earlier in this cast, Ms. Diana asked if anti-air wasps would have been the right answer. On that board, they were not. On this board, they were. That distracted those Phoenix, so they were doing single target damage to wasps instead of to all of the key units. Of course, the War Factories can't clear air chaff, so Rooster's bid to win the tournament denied. It was a really, really good counterplay from Green Mountains, and coming up with it on the fly into the face of this board, and we've seen this board fluster some very good players, right? Rooster ran this really well all tournament long. Didn't actually have a good answer to Wasps. You saw you saw Diana thought of it, Green Mountains thought of it here, and deservedly adds Vanguard Tournament Asia champion to their mini tournament championship from earlier in the week. Back-to-back Asian tournament championships for Green Mountain, and that puts them halfway to qualifying for the Launch Clash tournament, the 8th and final slot that's open. Well played, Green Mountains.
I love that little wasp play at the end there. It's very smart. It looked like PB was having a chaff clear issue in the round previous too. And so the way that PB fixed that, right, was by adding range onto his War Factory, giving him effectively another wave of chaff and all those phoenixes. And, Green Mountain responds in kind by saying, cool, I'm going to make chaff that only certain parts of your army can hit. And the army that you're using as chaff, and make it very hard for you to properly clear them. And he gets him with another chaff clear issue, and super cool stuff.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was really fun builds to watch Rooster play, and then a really fun build to see countered. Really fun to see the counter, I should say. The important thing there is that Green Mountains brought those wasps out much earlier than the board that Diana had suggested it on, right?
Absolutely.
He salvaged it while it was still salvageable. Well, look who's said, wait, let me change the text on my board and try this out. StarCraft Panda has legit changed the text on his War Factory to include Phoenix and Steel Ball, and is trying Rooster's build here to see if there's an instant counter to it.
This is a strategy, right? You go, that thing beat me, and I have no idea how to beat it. So let's see.
Let's see what beats it. Well, StarCraft Panda, you can catch the stream live or on YouTube afterwards. Who needs to know? Or you can just download the replay. I suppose. Probably the more likely way to go about it.
Seeing a similar trend here, right? In this case, we have wasps holding down the field. Although infinite chaff is coming out from Panda right now.
Right. And this is the problem with the production War Factory, right? Is that Melter by itself does not chew through the produced steel balls and produced sledges quick enough to take out a War Factory. It just never gets the lock, right? You can see this one down here never got the lock. That one was never, it got a lock, but it didn't get it in time. So Panda beats Godog with it. And that is why those are useful. And then Diffrac against it also falls short, because once it does lock, it doesn't do enough damage quickly enough. So you actually need an answer that is not your Melter clearing the ground chaff. And I kind of think this, or I liked seeing the double tech sledges as a possibility. So at least we know now that that does not work. But we find that out over here. And Godog didn't commit to the wasps the way that Green Mountains did. So that's why that didn't work as well here. It may also be that this board is different and deeper into the board. And we know that Diffrac isn't the answer because we've seen Sacco test it. It's not just speculation. We've watched Sacco test that out. So 2 games still in progress. I don't think we need to say much about them. Is there anything you'd like to say about the tournament in general?
No, that was fascinating. We learned some cool stuff.
Yep.
We're seeing an emergence of a new build, and I can't wait to get completely owned by it on ladder later.
So, are you going to turn around and run it yourself in Europe? Are you entering Europe today?
No, I will not be entering Europe today. If I'm guaranteed a spot by my MMR, I'm good. I do well in tournaments, man.
Okay. I mean, I'm thinking of it as you could look at it as I get practice in tournaments, right? Because tournament is a little bit different than playing on ladder. There's, at least personally, I feel a little bit more pressure because knowing that any loss can knock me out, sort of thing, and it's also fun to see people who do show up with something that they're not running on ladder or that you haven't seen on ladder, that sort of thing. So, yeah, you could think of it as practicing for the qualifiers tournament, even if you're not expecting to win it necessarily. But it's certainly up to you.
That's super fair. I was just gonna say, the upcoming tournament, right? That's double elim, yeah.
So the finals are single elimination, and the qualifiers are double elimination. So,
okay, yeah, the pools is double elim. Makes sense.
Yep. So get yourself in. You've got, we wanted to make sure nobody was knocked out by a terrible draw or, anything like that. But,
I love double elim.
Yeah, it's a good format. And we basically we're doing the challenge version of it. And the way that winds up working is if you go unbeaten, you only need to win 3. If you wind up in the loser's bracket, essentially you need to win 4. So, go 3-0 or go 4-1 and you're through. Go 2-2 and you're out.
Yeah.
So, congratulations to Green Mountains, our tournament champion, RoosterPB, who took his War Factory build all the way to 2nd place, but lost out in the finals. It was a really fun one to watch. Single True is 3rd, Starcraft Panda, or Death is the Order, 4th, B-Man on his alt Fish Station Sharkbird Vegetable B is 5th. You've got The Longer the Name, the More Handsome It Is in 6th, Hawk in Space 7th, I Am the Master and You Are the Servant 8th, Old Bandit Godog 9th, and Play Archer 10th. Congratulations to everybody in the top 10. Well played, especially to Green Mountains. Very nicely done. We'll show, as is our tradition, we'll show 11th through 20th, 21 through 30, even down to 40th or so. For those getting your name in lights, if you had your best ever performance, you deserve a little bit of recognition for it. And Green Mountains, of course, is halfway to qualifying for that Launch Clash tournament, but nobody took that 8th and final slot here. That 8th and final slot will still be open in Europe. We'll be back for that. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys watching.